Greetings, adventurers and storytellers. Today we have a Baldur's Gate 3 video. We're going to be covering the martial subclass tier list. So I already went over the class tier list. A lot of you guys enjoyed that one, where we had gone over each of the 12 classes in Baldur's Gate 3 and rated them based upon 5 different ranking criteria to come up with a score for them on how versatile and usable and fun the class is. But now we're going to be covering the specific subclasses for martial characters. And when I say martial characters, I mean characters that are oriented towards melee-based fighting playstyles as opposed to the spellcasting-based spellcaster classes. We're going to be covering the individual subclasses for the Barbarian, the Fighter, the Monk, the Paladin, the Ranger, the Rogue, and then just a few of the subclasses from the Bard, Cleric, Druid, Warlock, and Wizard, because those are applicable for martial-style builds. And we're going to have a very similar tier list scale and ranking criteria. It's a little bit smaller to make things faster since we're going to have to go over so many different subclasses. And also, I have with me a very special guest. Maggie is here, who is someone that I played a lot of D&D with and has a lot of experience playing Baldur's Gate 3. We both have probably over 750 hours playing Baldur's Gate 3 each. And yeah, Maggie, please introduce yourself. Welcome.
Hi everyone, my name is Maggie. I've spent way too much time playing this game. I've played almost every single class in this game. The only thing I really haven't played is the newest ones that came out in patch 8, but I'm still like playing through them and just trying to figure out everything. I love this game with all of my heart, and it's what got me into D&D. So like Kazu said, yeah, I do have around 800 hours. So I'm really excited. This is going to be so much fun.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're going to be going over the tier list scale, the ranking criteria, and then actually starting to rank these individual subclasses. And I think probably the ones that are going to be S rank are the ones that I will go back over this list for and actually provide build guides or recommendations. I'll probably have my own guides for a lot of these because, you know, the Bladesinger is one of my favorite subclasses that was added by patch 8, and for sure that's gonna very likely end up being an S tier. But let me actually break down the tier list scale first. So we have S, A, B, C, and D tiers. Each one is dependent on a score that is going to be from our ranking criteria, and S tier is going to be the top of the line. This subclass can be used pretty much in every situation for the vast majority of party compositions. The goats of their respective class or martial style builds is going to be S tier. Top of the line, best of the best. You probably might have a good idea what I'm going to rank S tier just based on the class tier list from before, but let's move on over to A tier, which is going to be for classes that are very strong but are going to have minor drawbacks or caveats. Maybe they can only be used for a specific type of playstyle. Maybe they're only suited to a specific type of range, either melee or far range. But either way, they're still going to be pretty good. And then we have B tier, which is going to be decent when compared to the other classes or subclasses of its class, but just not nearly as powerful. If we're comparing Open Hand Monk to 4 Elements Monk, we can objectively say that 4 Elements Monk is not going to be as strong in terms of the raw damage output that it deals. That would be an example of B tier. And then C tier is going to be, this class is only useful for a very particular niche. So maybe it only fills a specific role and only a certain part of that specific role, right? Like Nova damage on the first turn and nothing else. Or just compared to the other classes, its power level is a lot weaker, to the point where it's going to fall within C tier. And then D tier is something that is just downright the weakest out of everything within the martial subclasses or within the subclasses for its class. Probably only one, maybe 2 things would be D tier. They have to score below a 16 or below. And what is this score? Well, that's where our ranking criteria comes in. So just like the previous tier list, I've actually made it smaller. So there's only 3 categories. It's going to be combat effectiveness. So that is the usability of this build in combat to deal damage or to serve its role. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just dealing damage. If the focus of the build is being a tank, how good are you at being a tank, at taking damage, at taking aggro off of your enemies, or off your allies? right? 1 is going to be downright useless, which thankfully nothing is going to be a 1 out of 10 for combat effectiveness for the subclasses. All of these martials are going to have some degree of combat effectiveness. They're just going to be worse or better than the others. And then 10 is going to be god tier or downright broken. So think about the Moon Druid being able to jump off and deal, 500 damage in one shot, Grim, in honor mode difficulty. That stuff can be downright broken, or you can just deal like really insane burst damage. Then versatility is the second ranking criteria, where this is going to be your out of combat utility, your capability to multi-class this, the amount of rows that the subclass can fill. Versatility is just a whole lot kind of bundled together. Everything outside of combat effectiveness is going to be considered under versatility, and so it'll have a pretty wide span. But if it's got a 1 out of 10, then that class is downright useless. It only fills one niche, and it doesn't have any out of combat utility, which a lot of the martial classes, they don't have much out of combat utility, mainly because most of them aren't spellcasters, most of them aren't skill monkeys. There's exclusions like the Rogue, even the Ranger might get a little bit more skills. But a 10 out of 10 for versatility means that subclass has a lot of good options, a lot of good uses that are going to make it very, very strong in a wide variety of different situations. So versatility is very important. And then last but not least we have is fun factor. And fun factor, of course, is how much fun and entertainment you can get out of playing this subclass. And I gotta be honest with you, this is a very subjective category. That's why I have 2 opinions here instead of 1, because I'm gonna be very biased on what I think is the most fun. But hopefully, since we got more people here, and also I'll refer back to the poll we had, the fun factor is gonna be an element where 1 out of 10, it is just gonna be a snooze fest, boring, terrible subclass. Thankfully, again, none of these are going to be 1 out of 10, but they can be pretty low. And then 10 out of 10 is going to be the most fun I've ever had playing Baldur's Gate 3. And definitely some of these subclasses are just incredibly fun. Even if you're playing a martial playstyle where most of the time you're doing just bonking people on the head, attacking, a lot of these classes break up the melee playstyle, giving you good and fun options to do in combat, to mix things up, to entertain you, or just outside of combat. They have really interesting and meaningful things to offer. So that's the tier list scale and the ranking criteria. You can see here we have everything. We have each of the ranking criterias. CE is combat effectiveness, VER is versatility. Let me make that consistent here. And then FUN is fun factor. We have the scores here, which will be automatically totaled once I input them in, and based upon what the total is, that will automatically score a rank for them on our tier list scale. So if it's 25 or higher, it is going to be S tier. If it is between 22 and 24, it's A tier. If it's between 19 and 21, it's B tier. If it is between 16 and 18, it is C tier. And if it is less than 16, it is going to be D tier. So I have a pretty strong feeling we're going to have a lot of subclasses here that are A or B tier. We're going to have a few, definitely 1 for each subclass, very likely, that are going to be an S tier, and then maybe 1 or 2 D tier classes. So Maggie, if you're ready, let's dive right into it.
I'm super ready.
All right. So starting off, we're going to be doing the Barbarian class, the tanky rage manifest into physical anger and damage. We start off with the Berserker subclass.
Combat effectiveness, probably going to be a 10. It is super, well, probably 9 or 10 around there. It is super effective in combat. The fact that you can weaponize your bonus action is such a strong thing in of itself, and the fact that just rage becoming frenzy is so strong, especially compared with Tavern Brawler. You'll be doing so much damage going into mid to late game of Baldur's Gate 3. It is, without a doubt, really, really strong in terms of combat effectiveness. I always make Karlach either a Berserker or a Giant Barb. I actually have played Giant Barb, but yeah. I always make her one of those 2 because it's just so good.
Yeah, Frenzy is honestly crazy, and I don't recall, does it have any downside like it does in D&D?
Well, there is this thing with Frenzy Strike. So Frenzy Strike is every time you do use it, basically you get a -1 to your attack roll. rolls essentially.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah.
it's punishing you every time you do use Frenzied Strike. However, there is Enraged Throw, which is way better because you basically you can throw anything, and that does not give you a minus to your attack rolls, which is why Tavern Brawler is extremely good.
Yeah, so with Enraged Throw, you don't have to worry about the downsides of playing a Berserker Barbarian. You just have a weaponized bonus action at all times, which is freaking crazy, to be honest with you. And getting the Returning Pike in Act 1, you already become a monster damage dealer with Tavern Brawler. So yeah, I would agree. We'll give this a 9.5. I'd say I'd steer more towards 9 instead of 10 out of 10 because...
Oh, yeah.
Again, the Frenzied Strike does have a clear downside, and it conflicts with Great Weapon Master, which sometimes you might want to take as a Berserker Barbarian.
In terms of versatility, though, I don't think barbarians really have much versatility in general, instead of in terms of outside of combat. Aside from just a few of the funny dialogue options that you get when you play as barbarians. But still, I think I would probably give it just a general 5. I would give it a 5, yeah, because I think mainly just because of the dialogue options that you can have.
Yeah, there's this many intimidation dialogue options for Barbarian. Probably about, I don't even know how many. I would say easily over 50 intimidation options. And the DCs for these are half of them are really low, 15 or 10. They're pretty doable, especially if you have advantage on the rolls for these. So they're a lot of fun. And it gives the Barbarian at least some out of combat utility. Yeah, let's give him a 5. All right, and then fun factor for Berserker.
I might be really biased. It might be a 10. I don't know. I love Tavern Brawler. It's so much fun.
Yeah, just being able to pick up anything and then throw it over a dude's head and then break them into a million pieces. Really, really
so
good.
Much fun.
10 for Berserker.
I still remember the first time I did it. It was just, I was laughing the whole time. It was so stupid.
So that puts us at a 24.5 out of 30 for the score of the Berserker. It's going to be a very, very high A tier class. Prior to the Giant Barbarian coming out, I would say it was S tier, but we're going to talk about the Giant Barbarian, and they're very similar, except the Giant Barbarian is even more ridiculous. So
Giant Barb, in terms of combat effectiveness, once again, I would give it probably around the 9-ish to 10-ish range. Again, pretty much every Barbarian is going to be really effective in combat. Their just skills are way too good. The fact that you can just increase your size as a barbarian is really strong, because I think also in BG3 it's you also get more damage when you're in increased size, so there's that. You also increase your athletics as well, so you have a higher chance of pushing people away with that's also the whole 5 feature. It's super fun.
Spartan
Boot of the Giants. Yeah, it's super fun, super funny.
So
but overall, I would give it a 10. I think it's really good.
I completely agree. I think Giant Barbarian is even more so devastating than Berserker because it specifically gets damage bonuses for thrown weapon attacks, and it also has Elemental Cleaver, which is going to give you additional elemental damage, which you get to pick: Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, or Thunder. So it synergizes really well with either Reverberation or Frost builds, mainly Frost builds, because the fact that you can chill your enemies, you can make your Elemental Cleaver deal cold damage, and then you can use some certain magic item combinations to chill or freeze enemies, and once they're frozen, then they are vulnerable to bludgeoning damage, and the Boot of the Giants is going to deal double damage to them when you kick them in the face.
Super good.
Yeah, so definitely a 10 out of 10. Also, fall damage is broken, and you can abuse fall damage with Tavern Brawler, and you can also throw people off cliffs, which is just hilarious. How about we cover versatility?
I actually think that it does get a slight increase. I would give it probably a 7 in versatility, mainly just because your carrying capacity does get increased, and you also get Thaumaturgy. Is that how you say it?
Thaumaturgy.
Yeah. So your carrying capacity gets increased, and you get Thaumaturgy, which is both things that affect you out of combat, along with, again, the whole dialogue options that you get just for playing Barbarian. So overall, I think it would probably be a 7. in general.
I think we might be being a little bit too generous for versatility if we rated a 7. I might actually dump Berserker down to a 4 and then put Giant at like a 5 or 6 because again they don't have very many good skills. If you're doing skill checks, you know, outside of your barbarian intimidation checks, which are going to be lower DC and you're going to have advantage for, you can't do sleight of hand. You can't really stealth. I mean, you'll have some decks maybe. You can't do any sort of charisma or wisdom based skills because very likely you will dump those or they're going to be a +0 or maybe a +1 at best. So they don't have much to offer in terms of skills and play style. It's really going to be damage dealer or tank, and they can't really do anything else. But Giant is definitely higher tier than Berserker for versatility because of Thaumaturgy.
Yeah.
Thaumaturgy is very, very helpful. All right. And then fun factor. I think it's an easy one.
That's a 10, of course.
It's a 10.
It has to be a 10.
It's got to be a 10. I mean, front kicking people, and then when you mighty impel dudes, you literally RKO them. You just fucking throw them all the way across the map off cliffs. It's so ridiculous. It's so much fun.
If you haven't tried this
and you're massive.
Subclass, if you haven't tried this subclass, please do it. It's super fun.
Yeah, definitely the most recommended barbarian subclass, I would say, at least for me. And that was added by patch 8. So this is very, well, I say very new, but it's been out for months. It is a fantastic subclass. Check it out. I will have a link, very likely, to Morgana Evelyn's Frost Giant Barbarian build, because that's just the best Giant Barbarian build. It's just, it's got a lot of style and a lot of flair, and I think if you want to play Giant Barb and really fucking smash heads in, you can straight up just use that one. Next up, we have a giant subclass that isn't often talked about, Wild Magic.
Wild Magic. Personally, this one is the one that I'm not really a huge fan of compared to the other barbarian classes. Combat effectiveness, I think it's, for me, it probably is like a 7 or an 8. I think that there's just better options in terms of wild magic barbarian. You know, the more I think about it, it's going down to like a 5 or a 6. Like, I don't know. It's like it's okay, but it's like there's just better options.
Yeah, you can't really abuse thrown weapons on this build. I think there is a wild magic that makes it so that your weapon comes back to you. I'm trying to yeah. So if you get weapon infusion, your weapon will come back to you. So you could do a thrown build with weapon infusion, and you're getting an extra 1d6 force damage. But wild magic compared to all the other barbarian subclasses is going to be very inconsistent because of the nature of random effects. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's pretty fun. I'd say it actually boosts the fun factor because it's unpredictable.
Oh yes.
But damage wise, it is way less inconsistent, because if you do go Tavern Brawler, if you don't get weapon infusion, then you're kind of shit out of luck. You're gonna have to have a bunch of weapons to just chuck out like pikes and stuff like that. Magical awareness, which they get, is a +1d4 bonus to saves. Honestly, that's not bad. That might boost versatility. It does help in combat occasionally. And they do get bowstring magic, where they can basically bless for 10 turns as an action. That is pretty decent as well. But Barbarian getting these sort of utility things when they're already just focused on dealing damage and tanking, it's not going to be too much of a difference. This is actually better if you want to play like a quote-unquote support barbarian playstyle. This is about as close as you're going to get. So not bad, but certainly not great. We'll put it at a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree. 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, and going over those notes for versatility, I think it's got a little bit more versatility than, I think it has a little bit more versatility than Berserker, because you can get back spell slots. That's pretty nice.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Obviously, for the most part, you're never gonna have spell slots as a barbarian, but giving other people back spell slots is very nice, especially a 3rd level spell slot is big.
That's really good.
We're good with 5.
Yeah, 5. I think I would argue 6, maybe. I think 6, because the fact that you can just give someone a spell slot back is really strong.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I would argue 6. I don't know how many times you can do it. Can you just do it like...
It's once per long rest.
Oh, it's once per long rest.
Yeah, so you could restore a 1st level, 2nd level, and 3rd level.
Fun factor, I would give it a 9.
Yeah.
Or an 8, actually.
Yeah, it's still really fun. It's still barbarian. You can do the barbarian stuff. It's just a lot more chaotic and unpredictable, which not always a bad thing. Not necessarily a bad thing. On an auto mode run, it's definitely a bad thing to be inconsistent, but in general, not a bad thing at all. This is gonna have, I forgot to say, but Giant Barbarian was, you know, obvious S tier. It has a score of 25. Wildheart has a score of 22.5. It is gonna be A tier. And then now we have Wild Magic. So let's.
Oh wait.
I'm sorry, not Wild Magic. I just put it in the wrong category. Fucking dumb shit. All right, so sorry. Just rewind. That was for Wild Magic. It's gonna have a score of 22.5. It's gonna be A tier. And now we're gonna cover Wildheart. I flubbed up my alphabetizing it. So let's go over Wildheart, which is Totem Barbarian. For those of you who are playing D&D and used to that subclass, they renamed it to Wildheart. Actually, in 2024 edition, I do think they also called it Wildheart too. So now it's consistent. If you play Wildheart, you get access to bestial hearts. Each one of these are gonna change the way that you play your barbarian. So just off the bat, Wildheart has some good versatility on different types of playstyles. If you play Bearheart, then you're going to have resistance to all damage, and you get Unrelenting Ferocity, which is going to give you a heal. If you go Eagleheart, enemies will have disadvantage on AOPs against you, and you can dash as a bonus action. And you also get Diving Strike, which is pretty cool. Elkheart is going to be able to allow you to move additional speed, and you get Primal Stampede, which is going to let you charge forward. Tigerheart is going to give you additional jump distance and an AoE sweeping attack, Tiger's Bloodlust, which is really good with, it's actually super good with a Drunken build using Punch Drunk Bastard. That's kind of like a sleeper build that I don't think a lot of people know about, but I think Tigerheart is actually low-key really strong. And then Wolfheart gives us advantage, gives our allies advantage on melee attacks if they are within 7 feet of you, and you get inciting how to bolster their movement speed. So that's kind of Wildheart in a nutshell. What are your thoughts on the combat effectiveness for Wildheart?
I think it gets a 10 for me for terms of Wildheart. I think Wildheart is super effective for combat, as you have something for every situation. I think it's really strong. It's really good. Overall, I would give it a 10 just because there's just so many options that you have with the many different bestial hearts.
Yeah, I think it is really strong, but I'm probably gonna put it more towards a 9, so we'll average it to like a 9.5. Again, just because compared to Giant Barbarian, it's not gonna be dealing as much damage.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, if you go Tiger, you do get your additional strength mod on attack row. That's actually attack rows, not even damage rows. I don't know if there was any aspect of the beast that increases our damage.
No, there's none of them that increase your damage.
Yeah,
it's
you
just...
get bleeding, which is not bad. Bleeding from Tigerheart is actually not bad at all, but again, that's not a super big boost to damage. And at level 8, getting Land Stride is not going to make too big of a difference. Level 10, we get another aspect of the beast, which again is mostly utility. So damage wise, not nearly going to be as strong as Giant Barbarian, but tanking wise, easily one of the most tankiest subclasses in the entire game, because resistance to all damage on top of having the fat HP that Barbarian has makes you just an unbelievably hard to kill character. And better yet, you know, the funny thing is like there's the aspect of the beast, I'm kind of ranting on this for too long, but there's an aspect of the beast that gives you like THP, I think. Yeah, Stallion. Dashing grants you temporary HP equal to twice your barbarian level. So running this aspect, you're like a level 10 barbarian, that's 20 THP every time you dash. And if you have a way to dash as a bonus action, either by multi-classing it to Rogue or by going the Elkheart, then you can basically just have 20 THP every single turn, which again makes you an even better tank. So God tier tanking. God tier tanking. Versatility, I would say probably higher than Berserker and Giant.
Yeah,
maybe
because
of 6.
I would argue 7. I don't know. I think the aspects of the beasts are really good, like because a lot of them are definitely out of combat.
Yeah, exactly. These are actually meant to help you outside of combat. A lot of these.
Yeah. I would say 7, or probably either 6.5 or 7 for me.
Yeah, let's go with 6.5. And then fun factor.
I mean, I could just be biased. I just love Barbarian in general. I'd give it a 10 again. I don't know. It's so fun. Barbarian is so fun.
I think compared to Giant, it's not as fun. it has a lot of cool options, definitely some unique attacks and abilities. I'm probably gonna give it a 9, maybe a 9.5.
9. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
We'll give it a 9. Oh damn, it's S tier. It is gonna be. I wasn't actually expecting Wildheart to be S tier, but yeah, thinking about it, it's actually really strong and very versatile compared to the Giant, which is just gonna be mainly throwing weapons at people. And while both are super fun, I would say, yeah, they kind of end up around the same in terms of overall how much I would recommend them. But Giant, I would definitely recommend more just because it's more recent and less people likely have played Giant Barbarian. But Wildheart's also great too. I'll definitely leave a link for either an unstoppable, a very difficult to kill Wildheart Barbarian, or the Punch Drunk Bastard one that I was talking about, where you can actually abuse AoE damage, get multiple procs using a weapon that does AoE damage on AoE attacks. You actually double proc the damage, so pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then let's dive into our next class. Wait, let me just check. How long did that take to cover so far? Damn, we're 30 minutes in and we covered the first class.
Oh no!
I'll find a way to cut it down, I think. You know, I could probably cut out like 10 minutes somehow from that. All right, next up we have is the Bard, the charisma class who tell stories, perform, play their instruments, and cast awesome spells. The Bard is mostly known for their Bardic Inspiration feature, which I've already talked about in the class breakdown, but we're going to be talking about 2 subclasses, in particular the College of Swords and the College of Valor. Let's go ahead and start off with the College of Swords, which is definitely one of the better spellcasting martial classes.
Yes, 100%. I think combat effectiveness for Swords Bard is really, really high up there. I think it's like, it has the potential to be actually one of the, I think, highest DPS in the game, if I'm not like wrong. Like it is really,
if you're playing range, then yes, because Slashing Flourish lets you make 2 attacks at once, and you can do those 2 attacks on the same enemy.
Well, looking back at it now, I mean, I still think it's really good. I would give it like probably like an 8 or a 7, like, because if we're judging it by itself, then yeah. But if it has like, if it's multi-class with something else, it'd probably be really high up there. But I think overall, 7.5 for me.
7.5. Yeah, I would probably say like a 7 or an 8 as well. It gets extra attack at level 6, which is a little bit slower than everything else, but it's a full spellcaster, so you know what can you do about that. Slashing Flourish is really good for damage. Defensive Flourish really good for tanking. It's going to increase your AC by 4. They get more medium armor proficiency, which is really big because medium armor can typically give you a lot more AC than light armor can, and Bard's very squishy without medium armor proficiency. Usually you'd have to take like moderately armored or something to keep your AC up. I will say, if you have a Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, then they are close to broken because their action economy is 2 attacks followed by a full action spell that's being cast as a bonus action. If it's enchanting or illusion, that is ridiculously strong. So yeah, we'll put them at an 8, I think. Band of the Mystic Scoundrel in Act 3, it really bumps them up to a class that can keep up with all the other martials by having that extra versatility of being able to lock down enemies with enchantment or illusion spells. Now, versatility, probably a 9 or a 10.
Yes. Bard, I think Bard in general just is a very versatile class outside of combat. They have so much, they're very much like skill monkeys, where they have a bunch of like just skills that just improve almost everything that they do. And also they have a bunch of dialogue options, especially when you go into Act 2, there's a lot of fights that you can literally just skip over just by talking. So I would definitely give it like probably a 9 or a 10 in terms of versatility for College of Sword.
Yeah. Bardic Inspiration, Jack of all trades, giving you half proficiency on skills you're not proficient with, expertise for any of the skills you want to be good in, and also getting your, what is it called? Your magical secrets at level 10, allowing you to take 2 spells from any spell list, or any class's spell list. So you can take Spirit Guardians on Bard, which is hilarious. You can take Vanishing Smite on Bard, which is absolutely hilarious. So I'm gonna say they're definitely a 10 in terms of versatility. And then when it comes to fun, what are your thoughts, Maggie?
I'm so sorry, y'all. I do not have fun playing this class. Like in general, I do not have fun. It's like probably a 6 or 7 for me. Probably a 5. if I'm being honest.
I do like Bard. I think there's a lot of like meaningful things you can do with Bard in terms of you actually have an instrument that you can play. You can play some battle ballads for your friends in the midst of a fight. I'll give him an 8. I'll say, we'll average that to like a 7.5. Still S tier regardless because of how damn good College of Swords is. And then
Yes.
College of Valor. Whew. College of Valor is like College of Swords if College of Swords didn't have combat maneuvers or flourishes.
Yeah, combat effectiveness. I think it's already gonna get brought down just because combat inspiration is really mediocre at best. I'll give it probably a 6 in general, just because like it's not bad. It's just there's other options that just make it. There's just other options in terms of bards that make it just better,
Yeah, so combat inspiration, basically spending your bardic inspiration to allow allies to use it for their damage or their AC in addition to the regular uses of it is pretty much meaningless compared to the bonuses that you get from College of Swords. Using the flourishes, these are pretty unique things, like getting another attack or increasing your AC by a solid value of 4, like just a flat 4. Those are really strong and just kind of objectively better than Valor, so it really gets outbeat. I would rate its combat effectiveness 7, maybe even a 6. Bandamis Scoundrel will boost it up, but probably like a 6. What would you say?
I'd give it a 6.
Okay.
I'd give it a 6.
We're gonna put it at a
Probably,
6.
If we're being really honest, I would give it a 5.5.
Yeah, we'll leave it at a 6. Versatility, I would say, probably still gonna be a 9 or a 10.
Yes.
Because it's not as good at combat, you might play a College of Valor character and you're not going to be able to tank in the front lines like a College of Swords would, because you can't boost your AC so much. So again, it's probably just going to be a 9 out of 10. Still really good at a combat utility. And then for fun factor, what are you going to give this, Maggie?
You know me, I'm the biggest bard hater. I'm sorry, y'all. It's gonna be like probably if you choose the worst subclass, it's gotta go from like a 5, 6 to like now a 3 or a 4. I'm sorry.
Ooh, yeah. So fun factor, to me at least, if you compare how strong this class is to another class and it's way weaker, that fun factor is going to go down by quite a lot. Because again, you could just be playing College of Swords and be doing all the same things except having more damage, or having more tankiness. So let's hit it with a 4. That is going to put us into B tier for the College of Valor. I'll be honest, that's pretty high. That's higher than I expected. It should honestly be C tier. We're gonna dump it down to like 5 for combat effectiveness. Just compared to the other subclass of the Swords Bard, it's really just significantly weaker. Again, College of Swords getting like 2 attacks or 3 attacks from slashing flourish and then extra attack. Even though College of Valor gets extra attack and shield proficiency, it just does not make up for the flourishes, in my opinion. Unfortunate. I really would rank this as a C tier. I don't recommend College of Valor if there's College of Swords. All right, next up is gonna be your favorite class.
Death Domain. 10 across the board. Triple S's. My favorite class in the whole game. Well, it's my favorite class in terms of like D&D in general, but in terms of BG3, it gets a little dumbed down though. It's a little bit.
All right, let's talk about Death Domain. So they get martial weapons proficiency, which is nice. They're going to be a more like melee or martial based cleric class because of that. At level 1, they get Reaper, where they can target an additional creature with necromancy cantrips that only target 1 creature. So they can basically twin cast Toll the Dead at all times. That's fucking strong as hell. That's actually ridiculously strong at level 1.
Oh yes.
They might be the highest damage dealing cleric class at level 1 because of that.
In terms of combat effectiveness for the Death Domain, I would probably give it like an 8 or a 7.5, I think. Cleric in general is such a really strong like class because it has so much good spells and everything. Like Spirit Guardians is so great, and
Spirit Guardian's the goat for damage. For AoE damage,
of course. Yeah, there's just so much things you can do with it. The only thing that's just makes it not as great though is Touch of Death. Touch of Death is such a strong ability in paper, just completely nerfed in this game though in terms of D&D. But it's
just not anywhere near as strong as like some of the other channel divinities, primarily because you get such good items in Baldur's Gate 3. Like the amount of damage you get from Touch of Death is really outshadowed very quickly, and also there is a really dank combo of the Vampiric Touch in D&D. This is going to be in D&D 5e. If you use Vampiric Touch and then Touch of Death on Vampiric Touch, you are healing an additional amount based upon the extra necrotic damage you deal from Vampiric Touch. That interaction doesn't work in Baldur's Gate 3 for whatever reason, so I don't really have a whole lot of good uses for Touch of Death outside of just getting that extra bit of damage to try and kill an enemy. I will say, Inescapable Destruction is very good. They get to ignore resistance to necrotic damage, and by the time you're level 6, you're probably close to or in Act 2, where a lot of enemies have resistance to necrotic damage, so that's pretty big.
Yes.
Blight is a decent damage dealing spell for 4th level. Is a Spirit Guardian's cast at 4th level better than a Blight? In most situations, yeah, especially if there's more than one enemy, but it's not bad. And then level 9, they get Cloud Kill, which again, it's an okay damage dealing spell, especially if you use Hero's Feast to make you immune to poison damage, and then you sit in Cloud Kill, then it's pretty strong. But yeah. I will say
it's just concentration though.
Yeah, it is concentration. I'd say for combat effectiveness, they're like easily an 8, maybe an 8.5.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I love Touch of Death. The only thing that I'm just sad about is just that I think at max level 12, your Touch of Death is going to be doing 29 damage, and that's if you pure level into Cleric. So like you have 12 levels in Cleric, which is okay, I guess. Just 29 does not seem all that great. Just a burst of just 29.
It's really not. 29 damage is very little in Act 3 compared to some of the things that we can do, that we already can do on the characters in this list. If you're playing College of Swords with Sharpshooter and you're making 2 attacks with Slashing Flourish, that's guaranteed to be more than 29 damage off those 2 attacks, even with a shitty weapon. But yeah,
I agree.
8.5 for combat effectiveness. Versatility, what do we think Death Domain's at?
Well, Cleric in general is also one of those classes that's also just very versatile out of combat with guidance and traumaturgy, along with another spell that I can't think of right now. It's
enhanceability.
Yeah, enhanceability. That one. Thank you.
Yeah, enhanceability for advantage on skill checks. Pretty good.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's like as effective as Bard. I would probably give it probably like a 7 or an 8 probably in terms of versatility outside of combat with Death Domain.
Yeah, I'd say in terms of skills, clerics typically are only going to be good for wisdom-based skills, which are useful: perception, survival, insight, those sorts of things. And then for the skills they're not good at, they can buff your allies. They can give guidance, they can give enhanceability, and they are good in a variety of different roles: melee damage dealer up front, just pure tank or AoE damage dealer, and then also as a supporter, as a healer, as a crowd controller. So I'll give them like a 7.5, maybe even an 8 for Death Domain. And then
I'd give it 8.
8? Okay.
Eight.
We'll do 8. And then for fun factor, what
10.
do you say? Okay.
10.
I think there's a bias here. I think there's a little bit of a bias here. I think Death Domain is very focused on dealing damage, and it's really good at that. So if you enjoy dealing damage, but you still want to play a sort of, cleric-y, a character that believes in a certain deity and sticks to the tenets of their deity, if you're into that sort of thing, you can get some pretty good options as far as the Death Domain cleric goes. But if you're not into that, which I don't think many people are going to be, it's a little bit on the weaker side in terms of fun. So I'd probably give it like a 7 or an 8 for fun factor. I have a bias against cleric in terms of fun anyways, because I've just played too much cleric. So we'll average that out to like an 8.
8. That's cool with me, yeah.
So that'll be a 24.5 for the score, just under S tier. I would recommend it for pretty much most party situations. You can usually adapt to Death Domain cleric for most situations, but in terms of being a pure damage dealer character, if you play a giant barb or a swords bard, you're going to be stronger, dealing more damage than Death Domain cleric. So I think it makes sense. It's not S tier. All right, next up, War Domain Cleric. So this one is going to have, of course, War Priest charge. With War Priest, you're going to have proficiency with heavy armor, martial weapons, by the way. Heavy armor is big. With War Priest, you can make a bonus action extra attack. So level 1, you only get 3 charges of this, which is quite limited because it's per long rest. But having that bonus action extra attack is pretty damn nice. So it's good as a multi-class. If you play just a straight up war cleric, wielding a great sword or some sort of two-handed weapon, you can actually deal quite a bit of damage. It's not terrible. It's not the greatest. Guided Strike giving you a +10 bonus to your attack roll. It's actually pretty decent in honor mode difficulty. There's a lot of enemies with high AC, but later on, I would say it's not that useful because your characters are so busted. They have such high bonuses to attacks. They won't really need Guided Strike anymore. It does have access to magic weapons, but its spell list is pretty solid. Like, you're gonna always want to take these spells. Divine Favor is a nice little boost to damage, +1d4 per hit. Spirit Guardians, you're always gonna want to take that, so just having that always prepared is nice. And then like Freedom of Movement, good.
Yeah, and they actually get Hold Monster, which is I think not a usual cleric spell that they can have. Which is
let me double check that. I think you're right, yeah. Bard, Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizard, and War Domain. So only War Domain of the cleric classes is gonna have access to Hold Monster. That's a goated spell.
Yeah, Hold Monster is great. It's super good. So the fact that it's if you wanted to go Hold Monster on a cleric, like if you want to have your Shadow Heart have Hold Monster, you could make her War Domain cleric, which is really strong. Overall, I would definitely give like War Domain a pretty high score in my opinion in terms of combat effectiveness. It's also one of those classes that's super fun. I have so much fun playing this class as well. Usually I give like my Shadowheart, like if I ever make Shadowheart War Domain cleric, I give her the Blood of Lathander with this.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. It's so fun just seeing her just bonk people with it and just running in. Now in terms of the Guided Strike thing, I think it's actually pretty strong. The level 6 one, giving someone else a +10 aside from just yourself. I think that's also just strong in general.
It synergizes well if you're gonna have like a sharpshooter or a Grey Weapon Master in the party who's gonna use their power attack.
Exactly. I think it's really strong in that sense. So it's filling that supportive DPS niche. Overall, I think combat effectiveness 9 or 8.
Ooh.
9 or 8.
I don't know if I can give it a 9 just because of how limited the extra attack is. Because once you get to level 5, the extra attack you get is just objectively worse than a regular martial getting extra attack.
Oh, yeah.
So that kind of hinders it.
I think I'm more so looking at it as like a multi-class type of thing, because if you're multi-classing with this,
if you're multi-classing and you already have extra attack, it's good. Or if you go even actually going Paladin, 2 levels of Paladin for Smite, and then being able to burn your attacks or burn your spell slots on Divine Smite so that you can get extra damage out from your 2 attacks you're making, is quite strong. I'll give them an 8, and we'll average them to an 8.5. I'd say they're as effective as Death Domain.
Yeah.
Okay, now honestly, they're not as effective because they don't get the fucking... Death Domain has a really strong first level feature. Like, Reapers is god tier for level 1.
Yeah, which is,
because there's no requirement for this, or there's no resource for this. You can do it as much as you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
If anything, I probably give War Domain probably 7.5, I think.
Okay, let's give it a 7.5.
Yeah.
We just go lower compared to Death Domain. All right, versatility.
I mean, I think it's generally around the same as Death Domain, but not.
I would say it's about the same. Like, you can play different rows as a War Domain cleric. You can play all the different rows. You have the same out of combat utility. It'll be an 8 out of 10. It's pretty solid. And then fun factor.
Fun factor. I mean, I have a lot of fun playing War Domain cleric. Like, it's definitely really fun. I would probably give it again probably a 7.5 or an 8.
Okay.
Fun factor.
Yeah, I'd probably give it like a 7 because again, once you run out of your extra attack, you just feel like a cleric, like a regular cleric. So. Yeah,
I agree. I would give it probably a 7.
22.5 for the score. Easy A tier for War Domain. Next up is gonna be Druid.
Ooh, this one is super good.
Yeah, so if you've been living under a rock, Druids are the spellcasters who can wild shape, and if you play a Moon Druid, you can combat wild shape. So you can wild shape as a bonus action. You also get additional wild shape forms. So you get wild shape Bear starting off at level 2, which is super good because it is just really tanky. And level 4, you're gonna get Dire Raven, which is nice for a blinding attack. Level 6, you get Primal Strikes, your weapons are magical. Level 8, you get the Saber-Tooth Tiger. it's decent, but you know, owlbear is kind of the main thing we care about between levels 2 or between level 6 and 10. And then once you get level 10 as Moon Druid, then you get access to the Myrmidons, which are really strong and give a lot of versatility depending on what type of Myrmidon you want to play. So what are your thoughts on the combat effectiveness for the Moon Druid?
I think it's definitely up there. I mean, just the fact that you can wild shape as a bonus action instead of just as an action is already really strong in of itself. I would probably give it, in general though, probably like an 8.5 again, or yeah, an 8.5 or probably like a 7.5, one of those two. No, I'm sorry, it's definitely 8.5 for me for Moon Druid. It's super good. It's super good. Just,
yeah, I'm gonna say Moon Druid. One of the biggest benefits of playing a Moon Druid is that you don't need gear. You don't need a good weapon.
Yes.
All the martial classes, you know, that we're talking about, Cleric, I guess, would be an exception because they can Spirit Guardians, but most of the classes we've talked about so far, you need a good weapon to deal good damage. The Moon Druid is entirely independent of that, and they can actually deal more damage than most martial builds because, again, if we look at the Owlbear, let me pull up the Owlbear Wild Shape. Yeah, so here's the full list of all Wild Shape forms. At level 6, oh, bless you. At level 6 is when we get access to the Owlbear, and the Owlbear is specifically busted because of Crushing Flight. So this is a bonus action attack that uses movement speed. It is a strength save that the target, if they fail, they are going to take a ton of bludgeoning damage, even though it only shows, what is the base damage? 2d8, and then bonus damage based on level. It doesn't show here, but it includes gravity damage. So depending on how high up you fall, actually, I think it shows over here. Is this it? Additional damage will be added to the attack depending on the weight of the owlbear and the vertical distance traveled. This uses a similar damage calculation to throw, and effects like Enlarge, which you can abuse by either casting Enlarge on yourself from someone else or spell scroll, or by being a giant barbarian multi-class, it's gonna massively increase the damage you deal from this attack. So Moon Druid.
So Grimforge.
I just said Moon Druid. Moon Druid. Moon Druid, if you know how to work the Crushing Flight, it's downright busted. It is going to be a 10 out of 10 in my book. If you want, we can average that to like a 9.5. Oops.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, honestly, I do think it's 10, because I think, for me at least, like, once you hit level 10, this is like late game though, I pretty much always use the Air Myrmidon, and I love the Electrified Flail.
Yeah,
the
having a stun...
stun people, it's so good.
It's fucking nasty, and you get like 3 attacks too when you're like level 11 or level 12 as a Moon Druid, so you get to really smack the shit out of people.
Yeah, I would give it a 10. I would give it a 10.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah. I think it's a solid 10, primarily because Owlbear Smash, but also Myrmidons are awesome. Versatility. I give it like an 8. I give it an 8, maybe an 8.5. It's pretty similar to Cleric in all regards. Like, it literally has the same spells to support.
Yeah.
But also, it gets Wild Shape. So you can explore, you can scout, you can crawl into holes.
Yeah.
That's a little added extra bit of versatility that a lot of other
That's
things,
true.
a lot of other classes, especially martials, don't have. So I would say 8.5.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. And then, last but not least, is Fun Factor.
I would give Fun Factor... I think probably a 7.5 for me, I think. It's like... I don't know, it's just for me, it's like... I mean, yeah, like the Owlbear Smash is like, it's fun, but it's like... After a while, at least for me, it's just me, it kind of loses its charm, because that's just the only thing you're really doing as like a Moon Druid, you know?
I agree, but you can mix it up. Like, you do have other wild shape options. They're not going to be as strong, so yeah, you're not going to use them most of the time, especially if you're playing in honor mode. But you do have the other wild shape options, which let's look at. We have the Dilophosaurus, we have the saber-toothed tiger, we got the panther, the deep roth, the wolf the spider's actually really good at like early game, to be honest. Being able to web targets, I quite like it. So, you know, I'd at least give it like an 8.5. We can average that to like maybe an 8 for fun factor.
Yeah, 8. Yeah. Yeah, 8.
All right.
8 is cool with me.
And that is gonna put us at the highest score so far, 26.5. It is S tier.
It is a really good class.
As I mentioned pretty much in my class tier list, I talked a lot about Druid being strong, primarily because of Moon Druid. But
yes,
that's gonna be that. Fighter is our next class, and we got 4 subclasses. We got the Arcane Archer, the Battlemaster, the Champion, and the Eldritch Knight. I think we can kind of like bang these out pretty quick because
100%.
they're pretty, Fighter's pretty similar when it comes down to it. It's just what different options do you have to deal damage. That's really what it's going to be. So let's start off with the Arcane Archer. Maggie, what are your thoughts on the Arcane Archer?
So I've only really played a little bit of it. I haven't really played a lot, but the times that I did play with it, I would say that it's kind of in combat effectiveness. It's really strong early game. With the bursting arrow actually does a lot of damage early game, but I think towards mid to late game it doesn't really scale all that really well. So it's like kind of like not really that great. But banishing arrow and piercing arrow is also really good in my opinion. I think those are pretty good spells, mainly just because. Or they're pretty good arcane shots, mainly because piercing arrow does scale. It will scale with the additional 1d6 piercing damage being based off of your weapon, and also just in general, just scaling more. And also banishing arrow is just a super strong, just go away type of spell. So overall, I would probably give Arcane Archer probably a 7 though. In terms of like other like classes, I think you can do much more, but Arcane Archer is kind of just very in my opinion. It's very meh.
I would say, in terms of a damage dealer, it's going to be pretty much on par with a lot of the other classes if you play an archery playstyle, because you have access to consumable arrows, which are very, very fucking strong. They're actually honestly broken, like some of these fucking arrows that you can get as consumables. They're ridiculous, but what the Arcane Archer excels at is making you less reliant on consumable arrows, because you do get a pretty high number of arcane arrows that increase as you level up. So by the time you're level 10, you have 10 arcane arrows, which is quite a lot. It's actually quite a lot. Way more than it is in D&D 5e. Like, this subclass is so much better than it is in D&D 5e because you're so limited by how much arrows you have per rest, and you do get these back on short rest or long rest. The main use, in my opinion, of the Arcane Archer, especially once you're getting to Act 3, is on crowd control. So Charming Arrow is really good. It makes it so that you can be up close or next to a dangerous enemy and they can't fucking hit you. Enfeebling Arrow is going to have their damage if you enfeeble them. Actually, I don't think it has their damage in this fucking... Oh yeah, no, they do only deal half damage on weapon attacks that use strength. So that is pretty good. Shadow Arrow, being able to blind spellcasters is very, very powerful. You can downright shut down a lot of fights because you're blinding enemies, especially ranged enemies, and then Banishing Arrow just removes them temporarily from the fight as well. So all of these arrows are really strong, primarily for the crowd control, more so than the damage. I'd say they're at least going to be an 8 for combat effectiveness.
Yeah, 8. I said 7.5 or 8. I think.
So we'll go with an 8. I think that would be fair. And then versatility. Fighter does not have much versatility in general, but if you play Arcane Archer, you can take guidance. So that's kind of big. And you also do get a skill proficiency. So I'm going to actually give them like a 5.
Higher.
I'd say I'd give them a 5 out of 10.
5. Yeah, I agree.
If you play Arcane Archer, you're going to play an Archer. Like, you're kind of fixed to one playstyle and one build. But you do have some out of combat utility at least. And then what do you think for fun?
For the very little time that I did have to play with Arcane Archer, I would probably give it an 8 in terms of fun. Like maybe a 7, I would say. 7. Honestly, it'd probably be either 7 or 6, because like compared to other fighter subclasses, I did have more fun playing them rather than just Arcane Archer. If I was going to play an Archer build as a fighter, in my opinion, I'd probably just go champion fighter. But I think
What?
we're going with you.
Champion fighter is so boring. I will say I'm
It
gonna
is.
rate champion's fun factor pretty low because as far as Arcane
yes.
Archer goes, it does fulfill the fantasy of playing a magic archer character. You actually feel like, oh, I have these cool shots that are doing things that are actually impactful on the battlefield. And it has really cool particle effects for that. So, what were you gonna give it for fun? I'll probably give it like a 7 or an 8.
I said 7 or 6, but yeah, I
Okay.
agree with 7 or 8.
So, yeah,
7.5.
7.5. All right, that's that sadly puts it just barely into B tier. Again, I actually think Arcane Archer, if you're using it for utility purposes, is really strong. But a lot of people do, if you take it to the fact, like especially if you min-max consumables and vendors and shopping and get all the gold and then reset vendors and buy all the arrows, you're probably better off playing a different character as an archer, just objectively.
Yeah, I agree.
B tier, but a B tier that I would recommend. All right, and the next up we have is Battlemaster, the tried and true classic.
I love it.
The Battlemaster is basically a subclass that has access to superiority dice. You get 4 at level 3, and you can use them for 3 different maneuvers you can learn, of which there are many different types of maneuvers, but I do want to say Riposte, super strong. This lets you basically use your reaction to attack an enemy that misses you in melee. This is weaponizing your reaction, so that's super fucking good. There is also menacing attack, which is a wisdom saving throw that if the enemy fails, they will be frightened, which is a really strong condition. There's goading attack, which you can use to basically taunt an enemy. And then also a very powerful one is disarming attack, which allows you to potentially disarm an enemy of their weapon. And then you can just jack them with their weapon or throw it away or whatever else you want. So what are your thoughts?
An important one to mention too is probably evasive footwork. I really like evasive footwork. I think it's also really good.
Oh yeah.
As just imposing disadvantage on attacks against you for an entire round is really strong. As basically, if your AC is already really high and then people try to hit you and, obviously they have disadvantage, chances are they're probably almost never going to hit you with evasive footwork. So
yeah, and early on disadvantage is really big too, just by itself.
But overall, I really love Battlemaster. I think Battlemaster is, in my opinion, my favorite out of all of the fighter subclasses. I would definitely give it probably a 9 in terms of combat effectiveness, as there is a lot of things you can definitely do with Battlemaster that just essentially makes it just really strong in of itself. Like you already said before, like goading attack, menacing attack is really strong. When you get into those like higher late game fights too, I think precision attack is also just really strong too, as just adding just an extra 1d8 and 1d8 damage to your attack roll is just super good in my opinion. So overall, I would definitely give it a 9, but yeah, I think it's really good.
Yeah, I'd say a 9 is pretty fair. It's really strong, especially in Act 1. Battlemaster by itself, like you can straight up solo the bullet fight on honor mode difficulty with a Battlemaster because they can deal enough damage boosted by their maneuvers. Later on, definitely in Act 3, it starts to scale off where you just burn through your maneuvers like a little too quickly, in my opinion.
Yes.
But they're still just really good overall for combat. That being said, outside of combat, their versatility is going to be way more limited than like Arcane Archer. Actually, is there any maneuvers that help us outside of combat? I don't think so.
No, all of maneuvers are only in combat.
Yeah, except for Rally, I guess, which would give temp HP. But who the fuck takes Rally?
But I'm pretty sure maneuvers you can only use in combat, I think.
Oh, yeah. That actually might be the case. You literally cannot select them unless you're in combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to give them like a 3 or a 4 for versatility. What would
3.
you say?
I would say 3.
Yeah, they really don't have much versatility, unfortunately. Fun factor.
10. I don't know, for me it's 10. I would have a lot of fun.
If you like the glass, you just give it a 10.
No, but yeah, that is my bias talking.
They're pretty fun. You get to play a martial character that does cool things during the fight. So we'll give it like a 80. I would say 8.5 maybe for fun factor. They are quite fun. No, definitely not.
Oh, okay.
They're a fighter. It's very straightforward what you're doing. All right, and that's gonna give us a 20.5. So we got a B rank. I mean, like, I'll be honest. Like, fighter is, I mean, Battlemaster fighter is pretty fucking strong, but I would say
It is.
it's more heavy towards the early game than it is the late game, at least in my opinion. If you play
Oh,
like
yeah.
if you play like the new patch 8 Eldritch Knight with Booming Blade, I do think that's stronger in Act 3, much stronger. So yeah, compared to the other classes, I think it's fair that it's in B tier, but I think some people might
It's
get
just-
salty about that.
I think in general, though, when it comes to fighter, though, it's not very versatile out of combat because, like, you really don't have any real out of combat things you can do as a fighter. And if you're just fighting people, yeah, like, I think it's really strong.
Yeah,
but-
exactly. So it's kind of B tier because, like, if you have a party that has plenty of damage, like playing the Battlemaster fighter, you're not really offering your team that much more.
Yeah.
All right, that's that. Let's move on over to Champion. This one should be really, really quick because, hold on, let me just pull up Champion Fighter. Champion Fighter, if you take Champion Fighter, it is for improved critical hits. The roll you need to crit is reduced by 1, and this effect can stack specifically, you know, with all the magical items and other things. At level 10, you do get a second fighting style, but it's like, is that, I mean, is a second fighting style worth a level 10 class feature? Honestly, I don't
No.
really think it is.
The answer is no.
Combat effectiveness, I'm going to say Champion is at an 8. It's definitely not higher than Battlemaster. It's good.
No.
You know, increased critical hit chance is almost always good unless the enemy's paralyzed, in which case it isn't better. But
Yeah.
it's really simple. It's really straightforward.
Would you say it's better than Arcane Archer, though?
No, I'd rather play Arcane Archer because, again, the versatility of being able to banish an enemy or blind an enemy is way better than increased crit chance.
So in terms of combat, I'd probably give Champion probably a 7.5 then.
Yeah, 7.5. It's still fine.
Yeah.
Versatility, definitely going to be a 3. Maybe like a 3.5. I guess it does get, you get to
Remarkable
add
athlete.
half your professional bonus to strength, dex, constitution checks that you're not proficient in. So that's not bad.
Yeah.
And more jump height. So we'll give it a 3.5 for that. And then for fun factor, I'm going to be really harsh. I think Champion's like a 3 or a 4. It's like the most boring subclass out of all the subclasses in the game.
It's
One of
very
the most
boring.
boring. Like, it
It
just
is very boring.
offers nothing in terms of flavor. And
It
it's
does,
just,
yeah.
so I might even give it a 1. I might even give it a 1.
A 1?
No, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
give it a 1. It's not
Um,
that boring, but it's like a 2 or a 3 in my book.
I would give it a 3. I kind of feel bad for Champion Fighter. You know,
I don't feel
he
bad.
didn't do anything wrong.
I don't feel bad for Champion Fighter. It's not a bad class to dip into, but I don't know anyone who's going to play a Champion Fighter from level 1 to level 12 that actually plays a lot of BG3, you know?
No. No one would ever do that.
Hey, if you're playing this game for the first time, Champion Fighter is great because you don't have to put a lot of effort into thinking about your build. I think the simplicity is a bonus in that sense, but for anyone that's experienced, it's a detriment. So
Yes.
It's
like you only really go into Champion Fighter for the level 3 effect of it, which is like the one where you can get like increased critical hit and it can stack.
Exactly.
So that's the only really thing you're ever really doing if you're going Champion Fighter.
Yeah, so it's got a score 13. We're gonna put that into the D tier. First thing into D tier. Hopefully nothing else joins it in D tier, but I have a feeling something else might. Well, let's move on over to Eldritch Knight, which as of patch 8, actually let me pull up Eldritch Knight. So let's dive into Eldritch Knight, and as of patch 8, Eldritch Knight now has access to Booming Blade. Booming Blade is a cantrip that allows you to weaponize, or that allows you to make a spellcasting weapon attack that deals bonus thunder damage, and it's fucking absolutely busted on Eldritch Knight because you get access to at level 6 or is it level 7? Level 7, you get access to war magic. So whenever you cast a cantrip, you can make a weapon attack using bonus action. You can, for whatever reason, replace one of your attacks with a Booming Blade, which is really fucking strong. You can't do that in D&D 5e. Normally, you'd only be able to Booming Blade and then make a weapon attack as a bonus action for a total of 2 attacks. But in Baldur's Gate 3, you can make 2 weapon attacks, then a booming blade attack, and then another weapon attack as a bonus action for a total of 4 attacks at level 7. That's downright disgusting in my opinion. It's very, very strong.
Yeah, that is combined with a haste pot too, a haste potion.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And they do have access to Hold Person, which is a very powerful control spell. If you cast Hold Person and get it off on an enemy and then attack them 4 times, they're gonna die. They're gonna die.
Yes. Yes. Oh my god, War. I'm so sorry. Eldritch Knight is super good, in my opinion. I would definitely give it probably combat effectiveness. Going. Fuck. I think 10. I think 10.
I actually do think it's 10.
I think it's 10. Like, I think before Booming Blade came out, I would probably not really give this, like, that good of a, like, combat effectiveness, but since Booming Blade is in the game, such a strong cantrip, it immediately made Eldritch Knight probably one of the highest, no, not even probably, it is one of the highest DPS builds you can go in the game.
Yeah, and mainly very consistent damage output, so it's not going to have as much burst as a Paladin, you know, but it's going to be dealing ridiculously good damage every single turn without any resource cost, you know. Once you get level 11, then you get 3 attacks per turn, and at level 7 you get 1 weapon attack, then booming blade, and then a bonus action attack. Level 11 you get 2 normal attacks, and then a booming blade, and then a bonus action weapon attack. Forgive me, you don't get 4 attacks at level 7. That's at level 11. But either way, it's really fucking strong, really consistent, and you do have action surge when you do need that burst of damage to finish off a target. Out of combat effectiveness, they have spellcasting. So just by having spellcasting, they get access to a lot of useful spells. There's magic weapon, there's knock, there's invisibility, there's shadow blade, there is mirror image and misty step. I think they're definitely going to be higher than most of the other fighter classes. Maybe a 5 for versatility and out of combat utility.
I would say 6.
6? Ooh, we're rating them very high.
Just because like the options that you have just with spells is just makes it so that it does make it there's a lot of things you can do outside of combat with Eldritch Knight fighter, in my opinion, of course.
Yeah, no, they are a lot more versatile, and if you want to play them as a tank, they're great tanks because, you know, you can take the shield spell and that's going to boost your armor class by 5 until the end of the round. Super huge to have as a fighter to be even more sturdy in the front lines. For the fun factor, what are you going to give this class, subclass?
I mean, it's very fun. I would probably give it a 9, in my opinion.
9? Yeah,
probably
a 9. I think it's like an 8 or a 9. It's got a lot of just cool things that you can do, and you really feel like a spell knight when you're playing an Eldritch Knight, especially as of patch 8 because of Booming Blade. That makes a super big difference in you feeling like a melee character that's actually casting spells. So we'll give that an 8.5.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I agree.
Or do I want to give it a 9? Or do I want? I think it's S tier. I think it's S tier. I'm gonna give it a 9.
I do think it's S tier as well.
I genuinely think Eldritch Knight is S tier. It's very strong. You know, pre-patch 8, Eldritch Knight was kind of a stinker. It probably would have been like B tier. But post-patch 8 with Booming Blade, it is definitely going to be S tier. And I do have a build for the Eldritch Knight that is... Actually, wait, is it Eldritch Knight? I don't think I have a build for Eldritch Knight, actually. Never mind. Take that back. I might have a build for Eldritch Knight coming out. I don't know if I actually want to make one, but Eldritch Knight's great. So, score 25, easy S tier. Let us move on over to Monk.
Drunken Master. This one, I haven't played yet, so... But,
I can share my thoughts on Drunken Master. I've tried so fucking hard to make it work. I've tried so fucking hard to make Way of the Drunken Master work, and I gotta tell you, it's just mediocre. It is a monk subclass that has way too many abilities that require key points. So level 3, you get Cheeky Tipple. You're immune to the negative effects of being drunk, and once per day when you drink alcohol, you get half your key points back. So that is very good. Basically bonus action, drink alcohol, and then get half your key points back. That does help a little bit of the issue it has of having to spend way too much key points on things. They get Drunken Technique, which is going to allow us to have bonus movement and a free disengage whenever we do Flurry of Blows. So Drunken Monk, you really want to play them as a skirmisher, even more so than regular Monk. You go in, you hit your target, and then you fucking book it behind cover so that you don't get slapped, because you're not very tanky at all. Level 4, they get their Intoxicating Strike. It costs a key point to do to possibly make an enemy drunk. Why would you, once you get level 5, you get Stunning Strike. Why would you ever Intoxicating Strike when you could Stunning Strike? I do not know. I'll be honest with you. Life of the Party makes it so that when they're intoxicated, you do gain a bonus to armor class when they try to attack you, and you get a bonus to attack rolls against them. But again, Stunning Strike, if they're stunned, they can't even attack you, and you get advantage on attacks against them. So kind of pointless. Level 6, you get Redirect Attack, which is good. You can weaponize your reaction to make an attack against an enemy. It's basically riposte, but it costs a key point. This I do like. So, Drunken Monk up to like level 6 is honestly not bad. Level 9, they get Sobering Realization, where they can hit an enemy, and if they are drunk, you're going to deal bonus psychic damage, and then they lose life of the party. So you like pop it, you proc it.
Yeah.
Honestly, again, I just don't see a reason to use Intoxicating Strike over Stunning Strike. It's just fucking useless. So you just get very little uses out of Sobering Realization, and it removes the drunk condition on them, so they're gonna now be able to attack you, and they're not gonna get debuffed anymore. So it just seems like counterintuitive for me. Drunkard's Luck, also spending 2 key points to negate disadvantage on a row, kind of expensive. If it was just 1 key point, it would be good. Maybe it'd be too good if it was 1 key point, but I really don't think it should be 2. So combat effectiveness for the Drunken Monk. Monks in general, pretty high for combat effectiveness because of Tavern Brawler, but I'm gonna have to put them at like a 7.5 at best, because you just have a bunch of features, and unfortunately you can't make use of like 2 or 3 of them. All right.
I agree.
And then
just looking at it. Looking at it, it's like
versatility. Monks, they don't really get that much versatility, like in terms of skills. They're going to be dex characters, so you could use them for stealth and sleight of hand. That's good. They have wisdom too, so I would say they're at least like a 4 or 5 in terms of versatility. Now, in terms of roles they can play, you could only play Drunken Monk as a skirmisher and nothing else. I don't think you can really make anything else work. Like trying to play a tank monk where you're making your enemies drunk to the point where they can't hit you, it's way too much of an investment of key points to be worth it. I'm gonna give them like a 4.5.
4? That makes sense,
yeah. And then fun factor for the Drunken Monk, like a 7 or 8. It is fairly fun, and I like the animations for it. The animations for Drunken Monk, they add a lot of flavor to playing this class. Just the idea of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get boozed up and then I'm gonna run into battle like a crazy maniac and actually beat the shit out of them. We'll give it a 6. I think it's probably gonna be in C tier, especially compared to like most other markers.
Yeah.
All right.
Way of the 4 elements. I know this one.
4 elements. All right, you can share your thoughts on this one, Maggie.
Way of the 4 elements, personally, I think it's pretty good. I think compared to normal D&D, there is actually a lot can do with this. So
way better than it is in regular D&D.
Yes, 100%. However, though, it's still not really all that great, in my opinion. Just the improved spellcasting or the elemental casting that they buy is not really all that well. If you wanted to go a casting monk build, well, you have it right here. But overall, though, I think it's very just mediocre in general. I think in terms of combat effectiveness, though, there is a lot of spells you can use, so definitely does have that going for it. So I'd probably give it probably a 7 or an 8, honestly.
Yeah, I will say that they do get Fist of Unbroken Air, which is a really good tool for knocking enemies back, and they have Water Whip pull enemies towards you. So they have good options to reposition enemies. Oh, and even Fist of Four Thunders push people back. So the options to push or pull enemies, either pushing them off cliffs or pulling them off ledges, out of cover, that actually adds quite a bit of strength to them. But compared to Open Hand Monk, which we're going to talk after this, it's just, again, not that strong. I think compared to Drunken Master, it's probably on a similar level. I would give it like a 7 or an 8. What about you?
Yes, that's 7 or 8.
Okay.
But if we had to say, it's definitely better than Drunken Master, though, so I'd give it an 8.
Yeah, okay. We'll give it an 8. you can of course still use Tavern Brawler on all classes, so they're always strong.
Yes.
Let's look at the versatility.
I think since you have spells, it automatically gets bonus points just because you have more spells you can do with versatility.
You have control options, which is nice.
Yeah, you have more. You're more versatile when it comes to outside of combat. So I was gonna say 6.
6? I don't know if it's like on the level of Eldritch Knight, because you really only get tools for displacing enemies and then hold person. That's pretty much it. Everything else is damage. Blade of Rhyme is actually not bad to knock enemies prone, but yeah, again, not a whole lot of like actual versatility. Like you don't get the knock spell. All right, and then fun factor for 4 elements. I think they're pretty fun. I think they're very cool.
Yeah, I would give it probably a 8. Yeah, I mean, it is very fun. It is
very flashy. They have cool animations for the way that you use your 4 elements. So it definitely feels like, oh, I'm like an Avatar Airbender type character. Solid. They're B tier, but they're like a solid B tier with a score of 21. And now the star of the monk class, the Star Child, the open hand monk, which in D&D is honestly probably one of the better monk subclasses, but for whatever reason in BG3 they just went overboard, giving this fucking subclass access to manifestation of body, mind, and soul for an additional 1d4 necrotic, psychic, or radiant damage on all your attacks. And they also have Honus of Body, where they get a second bonus action that lasts for like 3 turns whenever they use this, and they get back half their key points. It's like, what the fuck? What? Who was smoking crack at Larian Studios? They really wanted to make monk good.
Yeah, like Way with the Open Hand is probably up there with, I think, just probably one of the best classes period in BG3.
Yeah, I think it's a 10 for combat effectiveness, very easily.
Yes,
you have tools to knock enemies prone, to remove their reactions, which can be very clutch, and also to push them away. So just at level 3, you get a lot of good value out of your flurry of blows, which you already are always going to use a lot of as a monk, and then you just get extra damage. Extra damage, extra bonus action. Later on, you get your key resonation for more damage. It's just like, what the hell, man? At a level 11, you get Sanctuary, which lasts permanently until you attack. Like, what the fuck is this class?
I think it's like, I think one important thing to also mention too is that when using this class with origin characters like Astarion or Karlach, you can definitely also boost a bunch of even more damage with them. I think you can actually get one of the highest DPS in the game by using Astarion and Karlach with this. With Karlach's Infernal Heart, with her coin, basically she does an extra 1d4 fire damage, but since you're punching like 800 times, that 1d4 is going up by a lot. And then
Astarion being ascended is just +1.
I was like, wait, can we say spoilers? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at this tier list and you don't know about Astarion's ascension, well, now you do. I don't know what to tell you. It's not really even that much of a spoiler, because I'm not telling you how it happens and stuff. But just know that Astarion can get a pretty big boost to melee damage, which is very strong as an open hand monk. For their versatility, though, I would say it's still not that versatile. They have good dex and good wisdom skills, but at best, I think open hand monk's like a 4 or maybe a 5.
4 is what I would say.
Yeah, the reason why I'm rating them also so lowly for this category is because open hand monk has to be a damage dealer. You really don't have any other role than damage dealer. And for fun factor, what are we gonna say for this one?
10.
Yeah, I think it is a 10. Just especially the first time you play open hand monk, the level of devastation you can bring upon people with just your bare hands is it makes this class very, very enjoyable. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like and especially with your flurry of blows, because you can just like knock an enemy prone, shove them off a cliff, take away their reaction, and then do it again. It's gonna have a score of 24 here. Really, the versatility is what's knocking this down from S tier to A tier, and I think that makes sense. If you want to play a monk, open hand, definitely the most recommended. But in general, compared to all these other martial classes, it has very, very few uses outside of just being a damage dealer. If you play a Moon
Yeah.
Druid, you have plenty of utility. You have lots of spells. If you play as a College of Swords Bard, again, you still have plenty of versatility. You have good skills. If you play a Giant Barbarian, you know, you're going to have the ability to use both melee and ranged options while also being a tank. Open hand can only be a close range damage dealer, and that's going to knock it out of S tier to A tier. All right.
Yeah, I agree.
Next up we have is going to be, so Way of the Shadow, what makes them decent is the fact that they have Shadow Arts for darkness, so
Yeah.
2 key points in an action is pretty expensive, but being able to see in your magical darkness is very,
That's really good.
very strong. It is what increases the survivability for the Shadow Monk a lot more so than the other classes. You can really abuse Shadow Arts Darkness to like just kind of cheese any fight where an enemy needs line of sight of you by just constantly dipping into your darkness. So I would say they actually have decent combat effectiveness just off that alone. And of course, once they get Shadow Step at level 6, I mean, they can just fly all over the place. They have a lot of mobility.
Oh, yeah. When it comes to Act 2, like, you will be flying everywhere in the Shadow Isle. Or
Yeah.
the...
Oh yeah, Act 2, oh my god, like the entire map is darkness, so
Yeah, so you can teleport literally
I'd
everywhere.
say they're like maybe an 8, maybe an 8.5 for combat effectiveness.
Yeah, I would say a 0.5.
Yeah.
I would say it's definitely better than Drunken Master and 4 Elements.
If you know how to use darkness, Shadow Monk is downright disgusting in terms of just being able to avoid damage. And then, of course, it's a monk, so it always can deal damage. And then versatility, I don't really think it gets... It gets Pass Without Trace, and it gets Minor Illusion. So that does definitely boost it. And it gets Silence. Actually, Silence is very, very strong. So I would say for out of combat utility or like its versatility in general, you can play it as more of like a stealthy character with some support. I'll give it a 6, I think.
I agree.
I think that's fair. And then for fun, it's like it's an 8. It's pretty damn fun. Maybe 7.5. I think it's pretty fun. The playstyle it will be very linear compared to the 4 Elements monk, because you don't have as much options, but you do have options at the least. So I think
I agree. I would definitely give an 8. Yeah, an 8 in terms of fun factor. It is pretty fun. I always have a lot of fun. Well, I wouldn't say I have a lot of fun playing Shadow, but like I've only really played it once. I was like, it's not really for me.
I think it's pretty fun. So 22.5 for the score. Solid A tier for Shadow Monk. Of course, if you're gonna play Monk, I do recommend at least trying Open Hand first, and then maybe giving 4 Elements or Shadow a go if you want more of a thematic style build. Stay away from Drunken Master unless you really just care about the RP aspect of it, because there is that, and I do think that's meaningful. But damage wise, or just effectiveness wise, it's nowhere near as good as the other subclasses.
Agree.
All right, let us move on over now to Paladino.
Paladino.
All right, so let us start with the Oath of the Ancients subclass for the Paladin. Paladins, of course, their key feature is Divine Smite, where they can burn spell slots to deal extra damage, and then each oath that you take is going to give you a feature at level 1, because you're going to immediately get your tenets, and then it's also going to give you a channel divinity or an oath channel option at level 3, and then some sort of different type of aura at level 7. And their spell list is also going to vary depending on what subclass you play. So starting with the Ancients, Paladin, they get Healing Radiance, so that's kind of nice. You can be more of a healer type of Paladin. You can be more of a support-based Paladin. At level 3, they can restrain enemies, and they can also turn Fae and Fiends, of which Fiends are pretty common. Fae creatures are definitely less common. They also get Speak with Animals and Ensnaring Strike. Moonbeam is great. Aura of Warding, they take half damage against spells while you and your allies are in the aura. So I would say combat effectiveness for Paladin, Oath of Ancients is pretty decent. It's weaker than the other ones. It doesn't have as much offensive stuff, but it's definitely like at least an 8, maybe an 8.5.
I agree. I would definitely say it's probably an 8 or a 7 in my opinion. It's definitely probably in my opinion one of the weakest Paladin subclasses, but saying that this is the weakest is like it's fine. It doesn't mean that it's
Yeah.
bad.
Paladin
It's
is
still
strong,
really
so
good.
it's not
Yeah.
even that much of we're not really marking it off too much by saying that it's one of the weaker Paladin subclasses. I will say
Yeah.
though, for its versatility, I think it is a bit more versatile than some of the other Paladin subclasses, because again, you
Oh,
can
100%.
get that healing, you get speak with animals, you get access to Misty Step, you get your aura of warding. Actually, that more so affects combat effectiveness, but again, it has good options, and all the paladins are charisma based characters, so just by default you have good charisma skills. You can be the party face. That's pretty big. I'll give them like a 5 or
7.
6. Oh, you're gonna give them a 7? Okay, we'll give them a 6 for
7.
versatility. And then fun factor.
I would probably give it like a 7 or an 8 for in terms of fun. Like they're fun. I wouldn't say that they're not fun, but it's just I have more fun playing other of the paladin subclasses compared to this one. So
Yeah, so as far as your tenets
Overall,
go, you know, kindle the light, shelter the light, preserve your
Yeah.
own light, and be the light. Honestly, these almost sound like you'd be like some sort of sun paladin or something. Very
Yeah.
much, it is a very caring paladin subclass. So if you are gonna play a character that's gonna be like neutral at all or chaotic at all, don't really recommend ancients, because you're gonna break your oath very, very, very quick.
yes.
Probably give them a 7.5 for fun factor, just due to that. They can be kind of strict for their tenets. All right.
Yeah, I think like it's like if you shove someone to their death, it counts as breaking your oath, even if they're like an enemy. It counts
It's
as
too
it.
cruel.
It's like yeah.
That's funny. All right, next up we have Oath of the Crown. Added by patch 8, Oath of the Crown is probably the only subclass with a true tanking ability. Champion's Challenge is going to let you compel enemies to attack you. They have disadvantage to attack other targets, and I would say 90% of the time they will immediately aggro onto you if you hit them with Champion's Challenge and they fail to save on it. You also get Turn the Tide for some AoE healing, which is pretty nice. And actually their level 1 feature, Voracious Clarity, you get to add your proficiency bonus to attack rolls for 10 rounds, which is quite good. Actually quite good.
It's for yourself or someone else too, an ally.
Yeah.
So
And another thing, they get Spirit Guardians at level 9. So Oath of the
super
Crown,
strong.
Oath of the Crown, I'm gonna give it a 10, because in my opinion it's the best tanking class. If you want to play a character that's not just going to be a good tank in terms of being able to take damage, because you got heavy armor, you have lots of options to heal yourself, and then you also have good, probably very good AC from things like Shield of Faith, or from casting Warding Bond on an ally so that you can take hits for them. Crown Paladin also has their Champion's Challenge. They can taunt enemies. I don't think any other class can taunt an enemy in the way that Crown Paladin can in a massive AoE. So that's really fucking good. That's pretty much unique to the Crown Paladin.
I agree. Yeah, the fact that it's like the only class or subclass in the game that can really like taunt people, aside from like compelled duel, but compelled duel is kind of like just a single target.
Yeah.
The fact that Champion
single
Challenge is an AoE is really strong. So yeah, I would definitely say it's really good. In terms of versatility though, I mean it is a spell, so I mean like it does have spell casting. Paladin will assist spellcasting. But I think in terms of ancients though, it does get knocked down a bit because there's not much you can do outside of that. I would probably give it like a 4 or 5.
Yeah, most of its versatility is relates to combat. So being able to take hits for others and stuff, we'll give it a 5. I agree. And then for fun factor, I think Champion Challenge is pretty damn fun. Being able to just taunt the entire room, I'm gonna give it like an 8 or a 9. What would you say?
Is this a patch 8 one? I haven't played it yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks kind of fun though. Like it definitely looks kind of fun to being like the tanky person in your party. I would give it probably like an 8. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll give it an 8 or 9. Actually, fuck, I want this so badly to be S tier, but I will say its versatility is not that high. Well, yeah, no, it's not that high. Yeah, you can play it as a pure tank, but then you can also be a pretty decent damage dealer as a Crown Paladin. It's just shy of getting to S tier. 24-point score. I do highly recommend playing a Crown Paladin. If you want to play a Paladin character and be the bulwark for your party, like Crown Paladin is the fucking way to go. But we do have other options if you want to play the damage dealer Paladin. So let's move on over to Oath of Devotion. Oath of Devotion is going to have Holy Rebuke for extra damage, Sacred Weapon for an extra bonus to attack. They do get silence from their oath spells, which is pretty high value. And their Aura of Devotion gives you immunity to Charm, which actually is very clutch fighting the fucking Mind Flayers who constantly try to charm you after you hit them. Fuck that shit.
Yeah. So annoying.
I'd say their combat effectiveness is going to be like an 8 or a 9.
8.5.
8.5? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
they do get a huge... Sacred Weapon actually boosts your attack bonus quite significantly. Let's see. I think it's by your Charisma modifier. Yeah. So this could be potentially a +5 or even a +6 bonus to hit. If you combo that with Great Weapon Master, you're going to be dealing tons of damage without any downside.
I think also, I think a Radiant Orb build with this subclass is also really great too, as well.
Yeah, because you will be doing tons of radiant damage. All right.
In terms of versatility, I mean it's kind of like the same thing as Crown, where it's like, again, it's like it has a lot of spells, you know, it has that, and it's also a charisma, but it's like there's not really much else, I would say. Like a lot of it's kind of just
it's pretty much the same. I would say most of these classes kind of have like the same versatility score. Devotion is going to be
5.
probably about 5.
And then fun factor, I would personally give it a 8 in terms of fun. No, I'd give it a 7. I don't know.
I mean, the tenets are really simple: courage, compassion, and duty. I would say it's kind of like it's very generic. Oath of Devotion feels very generic to me. Ancients feels a little bit more interesting in terms of like how deeply connected to the world you want to be. Devotion is just like kind of boring as shit, so we're gonna give it a 7.
Yeah. It's actually funny. I think Oath of Devotion is one of the easiest oaths to break in the game, actually.
Yeah, it is. Just doing any sort of like chaotic evil action is gonna immediately break your oath. So yeah, it's gonna be B rank. I mean, honestly, I feel like kind of surprised these are not A rank.
Yeah.
Because they are still strong.
Like, oh yeah, the paladin, like the devotion.
Yeah, they are still strong. I guess compared, so compared to like Crown, Oathbreaker, and Vengeance, they're not going to be as strong. Devotion and Ancients are on the weaker side. I think it's fine they're B tier, because again, this is more so comparing them to the other Paladin subclasses. In terms of how Paladin compares towards most other classes, they are very good as the Nova damage dealers.
All of them are pretty much A. Like in terms of other classes, they should be A.
Yeah, which is why in the class tier list they did have a solid S. Or actually, no, they had a solid A. What did I give them? Solid. No, I gave him an S, but I had S plus. That's why. All right, let's go over the Oathbreaker. So the Oathbreaker is really good because of Control Undead. I told Maggie about this because they did not know, but Control Undead can be used on a variety of different enemies. Pretty much any undead enemy that doesn't have a specific tag that prevents it from being controlled. And is lower level than you. So you can't use this on the Thorns, you cannot. But what you can use it on is the Justiciar Crusader, which, let me pull up that guy. This badass motherfucker is level 7, so if you're level 8 as an Oathbreaker, you can take control of him in the Gauntlet of Shar. You're going to have a summon that has 195 HP, has 18 strength. They have a +7 to strength saves. They have a radiant retort, so if they get hit by any radiant damage, which enemies will often target them for because they're vulnerable to radiant damage, they will deal 2-fold that damage as force damage. They also have extra attack and Living Shadow. No, not Living Shadow. Where the fuck's his ability? Subsume Shadow, where he can enter Umbral form and have immunity to non-magical damage. So this summon can have immunity to non-magical damage, which is crazy. But yeah, additionally, you can, if you're playing Oathbreaker, you can take control of the Death Knights in Act 3. You can take control of any of the Death Shepherds that you see multiple times throughout the Acts 2 and 3. You can take control of the Spectator if you let it die in the Shadow Curse lands. Control Undead is a really powerful ability if you know how to use it. Absolutely goated. Their Aura of Hate is going to give you and nearby fiends and undead additional damage to their melee weapon attacks equal to charisma mods, so it makes your control undead even more powerful. And yeah, I'm gonna give him a 10 for combat effectiveness.
Oh, 100%. They definitely are really strong with the control undead, along with also, you know, making it so that you can actually have a spectator in Act 2 is also really funny. So yeah, I would overall say it's like a 10.
Yep. And then for versatility, kind of the same as all the others. I'd probably say like a 5 out of 10.
I would probably rank it higher, actually, I think. Because the fact that it's like, the control undead is actually, I think it what makes it higher compared to others, because it's like, you can control undead someone.
That's
and then
true.
it's just
You have the role of playing like a summoner, but your summon, you only have one summon, but that summon is way stronger than the majority of all summons. So
exactly.
That'll bump it up to a 6. And then looking at the fun factor, I do have a bias here, but I'd probably give it like an 8 or a 9. Because
yeah, I would say 9.
I made a video on this. I'll probably put the recommended for the Oathbreaker as my Sunjin Wu build from solo leveling. Like, you know, being able to say arise and bring back an undead warrior to fight for your cause now instead of fighting against you is just so fucking badass. That's gonna put us at a 25. The Oathbreaker is in S tier, and I think that makes sense given the fact that although its ability is a little bit niche, like you do have to know what enemies to use your control undead on. If you can use that, it's so fucking powerful. It's ridiculous.
Oh, 100%.
Vengeance Paladin is gonna be our last subclass, and for whatever reason I don't have that tab open. Vengeance?
Oath of Vengeance is super fun. So already level 1, their channel divinity is Inquisitor's Might, which is basically you by using your channel divinity, you basically give yourself or an ally's weapon attacks an additional they deal additional damage equal to their charisma modifier, and they can also daze enemies, or equal to your charisma modifier, I'm so sorry. And it's radiant, and they can daze enemies. Their level 3 features are basically Abjure Enemy, or Vow of oh my god, I can never say this word.
Enmity.
Enmity, yeah, exactly. Which basically makes it so that you can just gain advantage on an attack roll. The Abjure Enemy part is not really all that great, but a Vow of Enmity is super strong. The level 7 feature, Relentless Avenger, which is basically after you hit someone with opportunity attack, your movement increases by a lot. It's super niche, but when you can activate it, it is super good. But overall,
I'll say for Relentless Avenger, there is a combination that you can use Polar Master with Relentless Avenger so that you can make AOPs when enemies move into your range, and then the following turn you gain a bonus movement speed. So you can actually weaponize, if you can find a way to weaponize your reaction for like making opportunity attacks, primarily through Polar Master, you can get Relentless Avenger like every single turn, which is pretty nice.
Okay. Yeah, I actually didn't even think of that. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Yeah. But yeah, I overall though, I think Oath of Vengeance is super fun. It's definitely my favorite out of all the Paladin subclasses. I think in terms of combat effectiveness, it gets, in my opinion, a 10.
Yeah, it does have access to Misty Step and Whole Person, which is really big for a Paladin. Misty Step's super big because usually you're kind of caught far away from an enemy, and if you have to spend time to get there, it's just gonna slow you down so much. They get advantage. They get free advantage, so it's hard to beat that.
Also, talking about Oath of Vengeance, if anyone ever plays as Minthara has a special thing called Soul Binding, which basically is exclusive. Yeah, it's exclusive to her, where as a bonus action, she can imbue herself or an ally with basically additional movement, along with an extra 1d4 to their next attack, an extra 1d4 fire damage to the next attack roll, which is super good. So I think Minthara with Oath of Vengeance also just really pairs really well with it.
Is she Oath of Vengeance by default?
She's Oath of Vengeance by default, yeah.
Okay,
She's actually, you actually cannot break her oath. She's a character that, like, I think it's like hardwired into the game.
She can't be Oathbreaker?
Yeah, no, you can't multi-class Minthara. at least that I've tried. Like, I've tried everything to try to multi-class her. I can't. I literally cannot multi-class her.
Okay, that's interesting to note. Yeah, I haven't played Minthara, surprisingly, but that's very interesting to note. I'll give
I think
them-
she's like the only companion in the game that's locked into a subclass.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because you get her like very late into the game, or not very late, but like way later into the game. Vengeance Paladin, 9.5, I'd say, for the combat effectiveness. It's almost at the top, but again, compared to the Control Undead from Oathbreaker, or I think the tanking capability of the Crown, it's just a little bit weaker. And then the versatility for this is going to be probably a 5. It doesn't get anything that puts it
5.
advantaged over the other Paladin subclasses. Fun factor.
10. I mean, I could be biased, but like generally though, I have so much fun playing Vengeance.
Yes, the No
It's
Mercy
super
for the
fun.
Wicked is really easy to roleplay and a lot of fun to just bring furious justice to your enemies. I'll give it a 9, and that'll put us at an A, score of 23.5, very close to S tier as well. Super strong subclass. So now we're going to cover Ranger. It is a class that's definitely kind of one of the lesser played classes. It's definitely weaker in comparison to a lot of the other classes in terms of just raw martial damage output, but it still has a lot of fun and a lot of uniqueness to it. So the Ranger, primarily, they don't have much of an identity for their class. It's dependent entirely on the subclass. We're going to start off with Beastmaster, which is probably my favorite subclass for the Ranger in general. You get access to a Ranger's Companion, of which each one has different abilities. The bear has a taunt, the boar has a charge, the dire raven can blind, the wolf has the lunging bite to knock prone, and the wolf spider has the ability to web targets and poison them. So honestly, all of them are pretty good, but I actually really like the bear. Once you get to, I believe, level 5, let me check the bear.
Yes, that's level 5.
Yeah, once you get to level 5, you get Honeyed Paws, where you can disarm targets. And that is downright busted. If they aren't holding weapons, they will fall prone instead, which is also really, really good. So, Honeyed Paws on your Ursa Major is fucking fantastic. Do you have any thoughts on the Beastmaster?
It's one of the subclasses that I haven't really played all that much, but Honey Paws is definitely, like the Bear Companion Honey Paws is definitely really, really strong in my opinion. But in terms of combat effectiveness, I would most likely give it like maybe a 7 or a 6.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7. It's definitely nowhere near as strong as like a paladin with smites. Even with your companion, you're still not outputting that much damage to the Ranger, but you do have that utility of the Honeyed Paws, which I do like a lot.
Now in terms of versatility, I don't really think it has that much versatility aside from it just being like Ranger in of itself has like a bunch of it's a spellcasting class, so you know that bumps it up a bit.
Yeah, it's a half caster. You get speak with animals. You get access to your extra proficiencies from your base ranger. You know, whatever favorite enemy you have or your natural explorer, that's going to give you extra resistances, extra proficiencies. So that is pretty nice. And you're also typically going to be a dex-based character, a dex and wisdom-based character. I would say they're probably around a 5 or 6 most of the time, Ranger.
I think Beastmaster does get a 6 because of the companions in of itself. They can also do the scouting for you.
Yeah.
You know, they can do that for you, and I think certain
summoning, tanking, they can fulfill roles for you.
They can also, I think some companions can go into like secret areas that can't, because it's like, oh, like it's too small, you can't fit in it, you know.
Yeah, or you can use Find Familiar for that. Beastmaster fun factor, I would probably give it like a 7 or an 8. It's pretty fun.
7. Yeah, I'll give it a 7.
Yeah, and yeah, probably like honestly a 7, just because summons in general are a pain in the ass, especially if you have a lot of them, and you can have like 2 bear. You can summon another bear at like level 11 with the bear companion, I think, right? Yep. Ursine reinforcements.
Yes,
having more summons is a little bit more tedious, but having the options is very nice. So yeah, overall, this is going to be a score of 20. It's a B, but I am someone who definitely favors Beastmaster. Next up we have is Gloomstalker.
I personally love Gloomstalker. Gloomstalker is my personal favorite. As level 3, you get basically Umbral Shroud and Superior Dark Vision, which can also be really cool. But you also get, in my opinion, a super underrated spell, Disguise Self, which is super fun. I love using Disguise Self because when used with certain items, they can actually override the racial requirements. So
Oh
you
yeah,
can use
that's
Disguise
a
Self
really good use, especially for like items that synergize with Yankees. You can also use Disguise Self in Act 1 a lot to turn into a drow and just bypass any sort of goblin encampment.
That is also very true. But they also get Dread Ambusher, which is essentially you get basically a +3 bonus to your initiative, which means that you will most likely or almost all the time be going first on initiative, just because, like Hasu said, you're already a dex. Your dex is already probably going to be like a +5, along with a +3 to your initiative. You're going to be pretty much always going first. Your first turn of combat, you move faster, and then you can also make an extra weapon attack that deals an additional 1d8 damage, which does not add to your total attacks you can make per turn. So I think this can get really silly, like going in like Act 3, you can have like one multi-class, you can have like 4 attacks in your first turn, or probably 5 attacks in your first turn. Super silly. Level 5, you get Misstep, super cool. Level 7, important, you get proficiency in Wisdom and Intelligence saving throws. That is super awesome. I say buzz because that's super buzz. And then 11, you get basically when you miss a weapon attack, you can make another one for free. That one is, but
it's not bad.
looking at everything
it's not
else,
bad.
Yeah.
It's like an extra attack if you miss.
Exactly, yeah. But looking at everything else, like basically that is what makes Gloomstalker what it is. And in my personal opinion, combat effectiveness takes it to either a 10 or a 9.
Okay, I don't think it's a 10 for combat effectiveness because it only gets the benefits of Dread Ambusher on the first turn. So unless you're specifically playing an assassin build, which Morgana Evelyn does have a really good assassin build that I'm pretty sure uses Dread Ambusher. You are not going to be, you're going to be out of gas. You know what I mean? Like your subclass is going to be dead after the first turn. So you essentially aren't going to get that big of a bonus from it. I don't think it can be a 10 because of that, but it's definitely like, it probably would be a 9, honestly. It is very strong. Gloomstalker, super good because of how much combats you do in Baldur's Gate 3. You will be getting Dread Ambusher quite often. It's just, in a fight, especially a boss fight, you're not going to be getting a lot of value out of it outside the first turn. Versatility, I actually do think because it has a Disguise Self, we could maybe give it like a 6.5 or 7 for versatility. It's definitely better than a lot of other classes that don't.
I would give it, I would definitely give it a 7, just because Disguise Self and also Superior Dark Vision is also
Superior Dark Vision is also really strong.
Yeah, it's super strong, along with the Misty Step and then the proficiency in Wisdom and Intelligence, that's more so a combat thing, but still though, it's really strong.
Alright, and then what would you say the fun factor is?
I can't be biased and say a 10. But honestly, I would give it a 10. I have so much fun playing this class. Like, it really is, though. I have so much fun playing this class. But I think in terms of, like, other people, probably 9 or 8, I think, in terms of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it is pretty fun, especially playing, like, the stealth archer, the stereotypical stealth archer playstyle. Like, you're gonna do a lot of damage with this, and you're gonna be able to fit that vibe of a stealth hunter. Probably gonna give it an 8 or a 9. So I would say 8.5.
Yeah.
That's gonna put it. It's gonna put us at a score of 24.5. It is very close to S tier, and I think that makes sense. You know, the Gloomstalker is only suited as a damage dealer, primarily as a range damage dealer. You could play a melee Gloomstalker. I actually don't see very many melee Gloomstalkers, even though I do think that's still plenty viable. But mainly it's going to be an archer. And so the versatility for this in terms of playstyle is a lot more limited than, you know, all the other things we mentioned that are going to be S tier.
Yeah.
All right. And the next up we have is Hunter.
Yeah. I actually played Hunter like once or twice, a couple times, but I fell in love with Gloomstalker. I can explain Hunter. Level 3, they get this really cool feature called Hunter's Prey, where basically depending on basically what your prey is or what your target you're fighting is, you get certain bonuses. So if you go for Colossal Slayer, it's basically once per turn, your weapon attack deals an extra 1d8 damage if the target is below its hit point maximum, which is, it's okay. Giant Killer basically means that if a creature is large or bigger creature than you, you can use your reaction to make a melee attack. Super cool, super cool. And then Hordebreaker is basically you target two creatures who are sitting close to each other, attacking them in quick succession. Level 7 is when they get defensive tactics, which is escape the horde, which basically means opportunity attacks have against you have disadvantage. And Steel Will, basically advantage on saving throws against being frightened, and multi-attack defense, which is when an enemy attacks you, they suffer a -4 penalty to attack rolls against you until the start of their next turn. In my opinion, I think multi-attack defense is probably the best one out of those three because you can only choose one of the following. And then volley and whirlwind attack, not really the greatest in my opinion, but yeah. So you probably only really take Hunter for either its level 3 or level 7 feature, but overall they're not really that like great. I would probably give overall combat effectiveness probably a 6 or a 7 point. A 6 or a 7.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter is definitely not bad. You can certainly make use of all of these features. Like probably Colossus Slayer is the one that's universally like gonna always be useful to you, except outside of the first turn. It'll be very useful. And then Giant Killer, that's pretty niche. Hordebreaker also fairly niche. It's hard to find enemies that are like that stacked next to each other that you're going to be able to use Hordebreaker constantly. And the inconsistently really kind of drops it down in terms of its effectiveness. Let's talk about the ratings for the Hunter. Combat effectiveness, again, because two of its abilities, Giant Killer and the Hordebreaker, they're pretty niche. It's only gonna have like a 6.5 for combat effectiveness. I think it's kind of lacking in the damage department. Even if you take Colossus Slayer, that's only once per turn. You're getting that bonus damage, so it's still not that much. And then
it's very mediocre.
Looking at the versatility, we're really not getting too much that we can use outside of combat. Yeah, we're actually not getting anything. Yeah, I'll give it a 5. And then the fun factor. For Hunter, which, you know, the Ranger class already doesn't really have an identity, the Hunter doesn't add on any sort of flavor or style to it. It does, I mean, it makes you feel like, oh, I'm very good at doing a specific thing, but if you're playing on honor mode difficulty, you're not even good enough at doing that thing, at being a Giant Killer or a Colossus Slayer, compared to just playing a fucking Battlemaster fighter, you know? So,
yeah.
Fortunately, for fun factor for me, this is gonna have to get tanked to like a 4, maybe a 5.
I was gonna say 4 or 3.
Okay, perfect. We'll say 4. This is gonna be D tier. This is one of those subclasses that unfortunately it just feels very lackluster, especially because the other Ranger subclasses, they have a lot of cool flavor and style to them. The Hunter just unfortunately doesn't have that. And so for those reasons, it's gonna be D tier. All right. And then last but not least for the Ranger, we have Swarmkeeper, added by patch 8. This one has a very unique ability of Gathered Swarm. You can flavor it as jellyfish, moths, or bees, and it has a practical effect of adding on different types of damage as well as different types of utility. So if we play Cloud of Jellyfish, we're going to have a Shocking Sting that will remove reactions from our target by shocking them and give disadvantage on dex saves. On a failed con save, the moths can blind and the bees can knock back and push. And at level 11, that gets even stronger. So if you have the jellyfish, they're going to be able to disarm the target on a failed con save. If you have the moths, they're going to be able to slow the target on a failed con save. And if you have the bees, they're going to be able to push and knock prone the target on a failed strength save. And additionally, you can use the teleport ability instead if you want to reposition and gain some AC. So I actually think they have very good utility between the different types of utility options from each swarm. These only can occur once per round though, so that's very limiting. That is very limiting. Combat effectiveness for the Swarmkeeper, I'm gonna say is like a 7, maybe a 7.5. Unfortunately, just only being able to trigger once per round is just so limited. If it was once per turn and you could like find ways to trigger it off turn, then it would be a lot better. But once per round is brutal. We'll put it at 7. And then versatility. Versatility, it does have gaseous form. That's pretty nice if you want to get around the map. But other than that, it doesn't really have too much. Let's take a look at it again. Hunter's Mark. We get Mage Hand and Fairy Fire, always prepared. And we get Web as well. What is Writhing Currents? Writhing Tide. Condense. Oh, gain of fly speed. Okay, so yeah, so we can fly around. So we get gaseous form and we can actually fly around with our Writhing Tide. So because of that movement, that extra repositioning, and the ability to get around the map, I'll give him a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. And then for fun factor, what do you think fun factor?
I haven't played it yet. I wouldn't know. I mean, in my opinion though, it kind of, I don't know, to me it doesn't really seem fun. Like, you know,
I mean, I think the aesthetic for it's very unique. If you if you actually look at your character model, like you get a swarm, which is super cool. So I've played like Swarmkeeper in D&D 5e, and I made my character like just a man that was made out of bees, like a bee man that was made out of bees. So that was pretty fun. I think they get at least an 8 out of 10 for fun factor because they do have a very unique flavor. And that's going to put us at 21 for the score, which is B tier. I would say,
I love that.
Yeah, I would say if you had to go with a Ranger subclass, if you want flavor, Beastmaster and Swarmkeeper definitely have a lot of cool, options going for them. In terms of their combat effectiveness on the table, it's just a lot weaker than most of the other things we've covered so far. So yeah, Ranger is looking a lot more on the weaker side compared to the other classes. But
if you really want to go a really strong DPS build, Gloomstalker is always there.
Yeah, there is Gloomstalker if you want some damage. All right. Rogue. Let's get through this shit fast. So, Arcane Trickster, straight up Arcane Trickster is kind of going to be one of the weaker subclasses in general because Rogue is a great class for utility. They have expertise. They are going to be very good at lock picking or any other skills that you want to take their expertise in, and they're going to be great characters to stealth and sneak around. So Mage Hand Legitimate, that's going to let you have an invisible Mage Hand, which is very nice, and it's permanent until it dies. So there are some niche uses for this, and then we also get access to spellcasting. However, we are a 1/3 spellcaster as an Arcane Trickster. Our spell progression is so outlandishly slow that I don't even think we get 3rd level spell slots. Yeah, we don't even get 3rd level spell slots. That's fucking depressing. I'm sorry. Like, just on that alone, terrible. We do get some options. I think the versatility score for this is going to be pretty decent because we do have a lot of options and choices. But unfortunately, when it comes to your combat effectiveness, you want to try to make use of magical ambush so that when you're hiding, the enemies will have disadvantage on saving throws against your spells. But your action economy is going to be really poor because you're going to have to spend your action to cast that spell, and then you can't make an attack until the next turn. So you're better off just playing a Bladesinger, like straight up, in my opinion. If you want to be a character that can be swift on their feet and deal damage and cast spells, Arcane Trickster is going to probably have like a 6 out of 10 for combat effectiveness because you're not going to deal as much damage as the other rogue subclasses, but you're also not going to have as good control options as a full spellcaster. So
I agree. It's like you kind of really as like this like caster class for like rogue.
Yeah, I might even write a lower.
It really doesn't really like help, because it's like as a rogue you kind of just want to sneak attack, and then with spellcasting it kind of doesn't really help you accomplish that goal.
It very much conflicts with your action economy. That's the main problem.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's like if you wanted to cast a spell, like you could cast a spell, but you're arguably doing like worse damage than you would if you would just do sneak attack instead. So overall, it's really not that great. And if you wanted to go in spellcasting role anyways, just pick a spellcaster in general. Yeah. You wouldn't go Arcane Trickster to do so.
They do get access to Shadowblade, so that's pretty nice, but they only get access to Shadowblade at level 7. So by the time you get to level 7, you'll have better uses for your spell slots and probably better equipment than a second level Shadowblade. Second level Shadowblade is still decent, but it's just so sad that like Rogue only gets sneak attack damage on finesse weapons. So Shadowblade's like the only thing, and Booming Blade, that you're gonna get value off of as a rogue. All the other spells that deal damage, you don't get sneak attack for them, so they're fucking useless.
Even then, if you're going this subclass just for Shadowblade, there's a special ring that you can get in Act 2 gives you Shadowblade. So.
Yeah, Arbella's ring is gonna give you Shadowblade. So Arcane Trickster, 6 for combat effectiveness. Versatility, I'll give it like a 9. It is quite versatile. Well,
yes.
I'm gonna give it an 8, because even though it is versatile, its versatility is still nowhere on the level of a spellcaster, a full spellcaster. Your spell slots are so fucking limited that it's just, I gotta knock it down for that. So it is versatile, but not as good as the others. And then fun factor, unfortunately, you just have so few spell slots that you really don't feel like a spellcaster magic class. I'm gonna have to give it like a 5 or 6. Like,
yeah, versatility really carried it though.
Yeah, it really should be more of like a C tier class, Arcane Trickster, because again, it compared to the other rogue classes, I just feel like you're better off sticking to one of those rogue subclasses and then multi-classing into a spellcaster like Bladesinger. Like Thief Bladesinger, that is so much better than playing an Arcane Trickster. It's not even funny. It's not even fucking funny. Let's move on over to Assassin. Assassins, they will have the capability to crit when an enemy is surprised. So getting surprise is very crucial. You also get advantage on attack rolls against creatures that haven't taken their turn yet. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much
it. That's it. Everything else that they really
they get their action and bonus action at the start of combat. That is kind of big too.
Oh yeah. But yeah, it's like everything else that they would get is stuff that every rogue gets. But Assassin is pretty good in terms of combat effectiveness. It's really good when you want to start a fight. Usually as an assassin, you get that round in, and you're basically just critting people punch. But yeah, I mean, in terms of that, it's really only have.
You keep cutting out, or like there's like small cutouts. You want to like replug your mic or something?
Okay, I'm back. Do I sound fine now?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, so like I was saying, basically Assassin Rogue it's okay. It basically fills a niche, basically being that, you know, whenever you start combat, you're basically against surprise people, you're always going to crit, and then, you know, you advantage on people that haven't taken their turn yet, and then since you're basically playing as a dex character, you're pretty much always going to go first, so you're always going to have advantage against other people who haven't gone their turn first. So I would say, yeah, it's pretty good, but that's kind of the only thing it has going for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think my issue is that Assassin is a little bit redundant in the sense that, like, if you get the surprise on an enemy and then you can crit them on the first attack, it doesn't matter whether or not you have advantage, you know? I mean, I guess it does matter in terms of, like, actually being able to hit them, but if you just automatically crit, it doesn't matter what their AC is. Like, you just hit. So if you use this with, like, a multi-class of fighter, you know, you might be able to make 4 attacks in the first turn and all of them crit without you having to paralyze the enemy. That can be very powerful. I think their combat effectiveness will be somewhere between like an 8, a 7, and an 8. Maybe a 7.5 to 8.5. I'm gonna give it an 8 for combat effectiveness, because it can be very powerful, but after the first turn, it's like then you're just a normal rogue, and Swashbuckler and Thief will be better than you.
Of course.
Versatility, Assassin is gonna be probably somewhere along the lines of an 8 as well.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, well, okay. Probably like 7, because you can only play them as a damage dealer. They have good expertise, right? They have skill expertise. They have value outside of combat, so they can do a lot. They can sneak around, they can scout, they can lockpick. They just... I think 7's fine.
Yeah, 7 is fine.
Alright. And then for fun factor, I don't know. Assassin's whatever for me. I really don't care that much. I would give them like a 6 at best, because, you know, you can play a character that can just cast Hold Person and then do the same thing an Assassin does.
I mean, yes. Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I agree on the 6 on fun.
Yeah, so if you're going to play Stealth Archer, Assassin's good. But outside of that, it's kind of whatever. The next 2 rogue classes we're going to talk about, I definitely think are a lot more interesting options. And so the next one we have is from patch 8.
Swashbuckler
Yeah, did you have a chance to play Swashbuckler?
Unfortunately not. But I did play Swashbuckler in D&D, so...
That's true. You can share your inputs on that.
So yeah, so level 3 they get fancy footwork, basically meaning that if you make a melee attack against a target, that target cannot hit you back. They get rakish audacity. So they get +2 bonus to their initiative rolls. This scales with your rogue level, and you no longer need advantage to trigger sneak attack, which is really good. I think it's actually really cool that, well, could you always use this with melee and range, even in D&D? Oh, really?
Oh, no, actually, no, you can't. You can only use it in melee in D&D.
Yeah, so range, yeah. So, I mean, that range part is actually really cool. Level 4, they get Dirty Tricks, which is basically, I think this is a new thing too, right?
Yeah, Dirty Tricks is definitely not in D&D 5e. So Dirty Tricks is like really nice. You have bonus action attacks or bonus action abilities. The Dirty Trick, Flick of the Wrist, is a straight up bonus action attack that can disarm enemies. So that's kind of like an extra attack. One of the worst things about Rogue is that sneak attack does not scale as well as having extra attack does in Baldur's Gate 3, because you have enchanted weapons, you have good magical weapons that make extra attack so much more valuable than sneak attack. Dirty Trick, Flick of the Wrist is basically like a bonus action extra attack, but only when an enemy has a weapon can you use this. And then Santos can blind, and Dirty Trick, Vicious Mockery is literally just Vicious Mockery. So these are good options. They give you some control, they give you some CC. Panache at level 9, unfortunately, is just not that useful because it's to basically like charm or inflict disadvantage, like taunt enemies, which you don't really want to do as a rogue.
Yeah.
So there's some niche uses with multiclassing. You could multiclass this with something like a tank, and then actually make use of Panache. But you need 9 levels of rogue, so you're not going to really be a tank if you're 9 levels of rogue.
Not at all.
Yeah. Combat effectiveness, though, I would say it's definitely going to be between an 8 and 8.5. I would say maybe 8.5 best. It's still a rogue. It's still not anywhere near on the level of the other classes because it doesn't get extra attack. So yeah, 8.5.
It has a lot of burst though.
8.5 being very generous because I do like Swashbuckler, and getting access to fancy footwork or fleet footwork is super good because you don't take AOPs. Like that makes you a lot better because you're a skirmisher. If we look at versatility, they have good out of combat versatility. Is it better or worse than the other rogue subclasses? I mean, not really. I'd say like a 7 or an 8.
A 7. It'd be 7 again.
Yeah, they're good skill monkeys, but their roles, unfortunately, are going to be more towards damage dealing. And then when it comes to fun factor, I'd say they're like
8
7.
or 9.
Yeah, 7, 8, or 9. Oh, we'll say an 8. They are. Yeah. It's pretty fun to play Swashbuckler. You really do feel sort of like that piratey, that slippery bastard play style. So they're going to have a score of 23.5. Yeah. Very solid.
It's actually really good too because Swashbuckler is like you can hit them and then you don't need to disengage with your bonus action. You just run away and then you just hide. So it's like. Oh,
and I will say if you play as a high elf and then you take Booming Blade as your cantrip, Booming Blade on Swashbuckler is fucking goated. That's great.
Yes.
All right.
And move on to Thief. I also used to play a lot of Thief Rogue as well. So level 3, they get an extra bonus action within of itself is genuinely crazy.
Yep.
And they get second story work, which is basically just you gain resistance to fall damage. Not as crazy. Level 9, they get Supreme Sneak, which basically means so that they can turn invisible, which is okay. I mean, it's their action. You can use it out of combat, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that is basically everything for the Thief Rogue. I would essentially give Thief Rogue probably, in my opinion, probably the same as Swashbuckler, either 8.5 or an 8, just because of that fast hands. The extra bonus action is super good. It's so good.
Yeah, it is super good. I will say if you play a straight thief, like your uses for that extra bonus action are going to be hiding or moving. Dash, disengage, hide. Like that's all you can do with it. It's not gonna give you extra damage in combat, but it will make you much more difficult to deal with.
Well, no, it will. Like fast hands, basically, if you attack with your offhand, there's like this really good offhand build.
With Belm.
Yeah, basically.
Okay,
it's
that's
like
a good
that.
point.
It's like,
Once you get
and then-
Belm in Act 3, you can make basically an extra attack with Thief's bonus action. That's a good point.
And then also, like, if you have 2 hand crossbows, basically, you know, you would sneak attack with your primary hand, and then you can attack again with your offhand. You can also attack again with your offhand, giving you 3 attacks per turn as a rogue. Which is really, really strong. Which, in my opinion, I think actually boosts it to like a 9.
I think that might be a 9 then, if you include Sharpshooter Crossbow Expert. That's pretty good.
Because along with that, there's also this really important glove that you get from Act 2. It's like basically you can add your ability modifier to your offhand attacks, which is super strong with this build, with the thief build. I did a bunch of times with the Starian. It's super good. You just get so much more damage.
Yeah, that's pretty big. All right, awesome. That's gonna be a 9 then. That is very, very solid. And then not even to mention like the multi-classing potential, where if you use it with any other class that's like a Bladesinger, you can have Thief, and then you can make the bonus action attack with Belm. Or if you play if you play Open Hand Monk, then you can get another bonus action for more Flurry of Blows. Super strong. The versatility for this class is gonna be, I would say, a little bit higher, just because it does have really good multi-classing potential.
But also, yeah, I give it an 8. I would say Supreme Sneak is also pretty good too.
Yeah.
In terms of like you can use it out of combat.
Okay, perfect. And then for fun factor, what are we gonna do?
I always have a bunch of fun whenever I play as a Thief Rogue. I'd probably give it a 9 in my opinion. I have tons of fun playing Thief Rogue. 9 or 10 in my opinion.
I'll probably give it like an 8 or so. It's
8,
maybe a 7 or an 8, only because like what it actually gives you is very simple. It's literally just an extra bonus action. That's literally the entirety of Thief. Extra bonus action. It's huge, big impact, but you know, compared to other classes that offer like very like flavorful and meaningful things that change the play style. And well, I mean, this does kind of change the play style. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to give it an 8 in terms of like that value, but that's still enough to give it a score of 25. As the Thief Rogue is S tier.
In my opinion, I do think it's an S tier, even by itself, and with multi-class, I think it is S.
It's one of those classes that's just fantastic as a dip, but then it can stand on its own, and so, that was one that I didn't expect to be S tier, but thanks to your input, it is now going to be an S tier. So that's going to be the Rogue.
Yeah,
I'll see if I can try. I'll probably put a link in the spreadsheet for Thief build. I don't know any good solo Thief builds off the top of my head, but I can definitely find one. Specifically, probably using the Sharpshooter. And then let's jump on over to Warlock. Or do you have one?
Yeah. Usually what I do on Thief is like I usually run the I usually make a Starian my Thief Rogue. So I usually give him the fire crossbow that you get from that one guy. I forgot the guy in Act 2, I forgot his name. It's the guy you can kill himself. Yeah, him. Yeah, I usually give him that, and then I also give him the near misser, the one with the magic missile one. I usually give him both
the force
of those.
damage crossbow.
Yeah, I usually give him those two, and those two is really good.
Yeah, that's
I don't know if there's any other hand crossbows in Act 3 that I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah, me neither. I'm sure I could find a Thief build, like a full Thief build.
Yeah. There's also like a melee Thief build too. It's also really good as well with the with Orin's daggers. It's really strong. With it's Orin's dagger and the dagger you get from what's his name? The guy from Astarian's like master. I forgot his name.
Oh yeah, that blood dagger, right?
Yeah, Rhapsody I think it's called. Rhapsody's super strong dagger too.
Okay, yeah, that's
overall. Yeah.
Mainly
Thief is really strong.
Yeah. And especially if you get the ballast armor and enemies invulnerable to piercing. And now we spent way too much time talking about Rogue. We need to fucking move on to Warlock. Shit. Yeah, we're Rogue. You know, Rogue, kind of decent actually.
Yeah.
Shouldn't discount it. All right. Next up we have is the Hexblade.
I played this both in D&D and in BG3.
Yeah. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. A Hexblade is basically level 1, so you gain proficiency in medium armor martial weapons. You also gain a bind hex weapon, which basically allows you to use your charisma modifier instead of your strength or dex when you're making weapon attacks with it. Basically, another important thing about binding with your hex weapon is that when you hit someone, this is a new thing in BG3, you can hit someone and apply your Hexblade Curse. Now, Hexblade Curse basically allows you to gain additional damage equal to your proficiency bonus. So basically, it's like as soon as you hit level 12, I think you get like a +4 bonus to your proficiency bonus. So you're basically gonna be getting an additional +4 damage every time you hit someone with your Hexblade Curse. Another thing too is that when you crit, the critical hit is reduced by 1 on the person, and I think that stacks as well, so super cool. And when you kill someone with it, you also get healing from it. They get a lot of cool spells. You have to learn these. So they get Shield, Wrathful Smite, Blur, Branding Smite, Blink, and Elemental Weapon. Level 6, you can raise a Spectre from the person who you killed. And the Spectre essentially, well, actually, it's actually different. Yeah. So the Spectre, I actually don't know what it's about.
Yeah. So the Spectre, it depends on the size of the creature that you kill. So there's the Feeble, Mundane, and Primordial. They are pretty strong, but I will say a Cursed Spectre, what kind of sucks about it is that it doesn't work on enemies that are constructs, elementals, oozes, plants, or undead. So like in Act 2, you fight a lot of undead, and unfortunately, you just don't get to use a Cursed Spectre. Once you get to Act 3, then you can finally start using your Cursed Spectre again. But in Act 2, it does feel a little bit like a dead feature, just because the vast majority of enemies you fight are not undead. And that sucks a lot, to be honest. But I think that getting access to Shield is super big, getting access to elemental weapons very big. Of course, you have access to Shadowblade, which is super powerful on Hexblade. Shadowblade, we haven't talked, well, I mean, we talked a little bit about Shadowblade, but being able to upcast Shadowblade increases the damage you get out of it. And so it's way, way, way stronger if you can upcast it to 3rd level, or if you can upcast it to 5th level.
And then binding it with your Hexblade weapon, allowing you to apply Hexblade Curse, is also super strong. And then level 10, they get Armor of Hexes, basically allowing you to nullify an attack that someone is Hexblade Cursed. It's using your reaction, and it has a 50% chance of succeeding. Overall, I would give Hexblade in general, I would give it probably like an 8 or a 9 in terms of combat effectiveness. It is a super strong class in D&D and even in this game, and I'm not even like level 6 yet, like in the build that I'm doing with this class. So, and it still is really strong.
Yeah. So when patch 8 first came out, it was straight up broken because of the interaction with Hexblade Curse and your Hex weapon. It would be almost automatic. It would just stack like over time, and then it would be like a 90% to apply Hexblade Curse on hit. They fixed that, so it's not as strong, but it is still really good that you can apply Hexblade Curse on hit rather than having to use it on an enemy spending your bonus action, and you can only do that once per rest. So when you are able to proc Hexblade Curse, you are dealing really, really good, consistent extra damage, and having the extra chance to crit is huge. Shadowblade makes Hexblade really powerful, specifically because you can get the Resonance Stone, which is going to make enemies vulnerable to psychic damage. Let me pull that up real fast. The Resonance Stone is going to debuff enemies in an aura with Steeped in Bliss, making them vulnerable to psychic damage. It's also going to make you vulnerable to psychic damage, so keep that in mind, and have you disadvantage on mental saves. But it is very, very powerful because of that. Doubling your damage for your Shadowblade is fucking crazy. It's the reason why Hexblade and also Bladesinger, which we're going to talk about after, is so fucking strong. I'll gladly give Hexblade a 9.
I think it's a 9. It does miss that little edge that doesn't make it into a 10, which is essentially just that you are playing a warlock, so you don't have like that many spells you can cast in general. But overall, I think it's still pretty good. Versatility, I would give them a 5 or a 6 in terms of versatility. Mainly just because, like, you are a charisma caster, so you already have a high charisma, so that does help you in terms of talking to people. You're a half caster, with basically, all the spells you can cast, and then, everything past that, you kind of really don't have anything else going for you as a warlock, I think.
Looking at their spell list, they don't really have a whole lot of out-of-combat utility spells like the Cleric and the Druid are going to have. So because it's more combat focused, that's definitely going to dock them some points for versatility. You can use them as more of a tanky character because they get access to shield, and access to medium armor. They have access to the shield spell as well as medium armor and shield, so that's pretty good. They'll be a little bit more tanky, but yeah, let's give them like a 6 for versatility. And then for fun, I think the Hexblade's probably like a 8 or a 9.
10.
It's
I'm biased.
it's pretty damn fun, and being able to, when you actually can use your summon a cursed revenant or your cursed spectre, that shit's awesome. Like killing an enemy and then rising a fucking spectre out of their corpse and then killing them with that, killing another enemy with that spectre is fucking really cool, especially because the specters have an ability that can like pull enemies. So they'll often target enemies that are on ledges and then pull them off the ledges and then plunge them to their death. So that's pretty fucking cool. I'll probably give them like an 8 or a 9. We'll say 9.
9, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll give Hexblade a score of 24, putting it at A tier. Very close to S tier.
Yeah.
I think if the Hexblade, again, it has the problem that all Warlocks have, where they just lack spell slots. They only get 3 5th level spell slots at level 12. That is not a lot. Now, you get them back on rest, but rest is not a concern playing Baldur's Gate 3 and Act 3. You will have enough supplies if you stocked up that you can get a long rest in between every major fight. And so playing full spellcaster is just going to be straight up better than playing the Hexblade. I'm sorry. It is what it is. That's how BG3 is. They give you way too much resources, but it's still great. It's still great.
Yeah. Another thing too is that, like, in terms of multiclassing too, everything that you would want from Hexblade, you get at immediate level 1. So there's that as well. Like Paladin and Hexadin is what's always been like thrown around, is a really strong class. Is basically you can go really high into your charisma stat, which is what paladins usually want, and then making it so that you have your bind hex weapon basically deal your charisma modifier instead of strength or dex is really strong. So you kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
so,
it is.
Right
Hexblade is great for multi-class. You get so much out of just the first level.
yes.
Yeah. All right, we move on over. We're so close to the end. Let's talk about the Bladesinger Wizard. We saved the best for last because the Wizard is, of course, prior to patch 8, it would not even be on this list. It would be very difficult to play a martial pure wizard prior to patch 8, but post patch 8, we have access to the Bladesinger subclass. And the Bladesinger subclass is going to give us primarily the ability to blade song. So whenever we use Blade Song, we get a bonus to our AC, additional movement speed, and advantage on acrobatics checks, in addition to another +2 to our Constitution saving throws. This is going to give us the ability to actually survive as a melee character by being a skirmisher. We have an increase to our AC, so if we use Mage Armor and Shield, it'll actually be pretty decent. And then we also have a boost to our Constitution saving throws, so that if we get hit, we can still maintain concentration on spells. That's really big. They also get proficiency in light armor and proficiency in a weapon of their choice: daggers, longswords, rapiers, scimitars, short swords, and sickles. So you can use martial weapons as a Bladesinger. Additionally, something very different from D&D 5e is that the Blade Song, if we take a look at that, it's going to give us access to the Blade Song finisher. So we can use the Blade Song Climax, and depending on how much spells we cast or how much melee attacks we made, we're going to gain stacks of Blade Song damage charges or Blade Song healing charges. If you cast spells, you get Blade Song damage charges, and if you make weapon attacks, then you get Blade Song healing charges. So at the end of your Blade Song, after you're done fighting, you can basically full heal from the Blade Song healing charges if you were just being a martial and fighting a lot in melee, or you can deal a big burst of damage if you were spellcasting the whole time. So it's very flexible, while also giving you just a huge bonus to your combat capabilities. You get extra attack at level 6, Song of Defense at level 10 to mitigate even more damage. It is super fucking strong. You want to at least get 9 levels of Blade Song so that you get access to 5th level spells and also gain 4 uses of your Blade Song power. Now, I'm going to say for combat effectiveness, just like the Hexblade, because you can get access to Shadow Blade, and you can cast it as a 5th level spell, and it's going to deal 48 damage plus your dex, and then you can double that damage from Resonant Stone. Bladesinger is going to be like a 9, maybe even a 10, because you also have full access to the wizard spell list, and any spell scrolls you find, you can scribe it to your book and learn permanently.
Yeah. again, I actually haven't played Bladesinger in D&D or in BG3, so sorry, I'm not really. I don't really have much what I can really
it's totally
add.
fine. I mean, I played Bladesinger both extensively in BG3 and also extensively in D&D 5e, so it's one of the classes that I'm very familiar with, and I both enjoy and think is very good. Being able to have access to the full wizard spell list means you'll have like the spell for every situation. So if you need crowd control, you can upcast a whole person on a whole group of enemies, or you can cast confusion, or you can cast, you know, what is it called? Globe of Invulnerability to make yourself super tanky, or not super tanky, to make yourself unkillable for a short time.
Yeah.
So having access to those tools is really fucking OP. And that's why I think Bladesinger gets a 10 out of 10 for combat effectiveness. When it comes to versatility, I think the wizard is at least like a 7 or an 8. You are going to have intelligence skills, which are often very much valued by your party. You also have a lot of good spell utility for things like knock if you don't have anyone who can lockpick. You have dimension door to get around quickly. You have access to all sorts of different spells that can be used for gathering information and just for boosting your party up for skill checks. So they're really fucking solid in that regard. And then when it comes to the fun factor, the blade song, the blade singing, you have these really cool custom animations. Whenever you attack, it's a unique weapon attack animation that very much fits the style of being able to do this dance of death to your enemies. And almost just for those reasons alone, it's like super fucking high value on the fun scale. I think also the fact that you get the climax, the finishers, that makes Blade Song even more cool than it is in D&D, and it's already very cool in D&D.
Oh, cool.
It's really fucking dope. Bladesinger, I'm not gonna use my bias and say it's a 10 out of 10, but it's probably like an 8 or 9 out of 10.
Yeah. I mean, regardless, even if we, you know, put anything, it was gonna be S. It was gonna be
Yeah. It is pretty goated.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really fun. I should definitely try it out. I definitely want to try it out.
If you haven't played Bladesinger Wizard, Wizard is again a class. We talked about this in the class tier list, but Wizard is very versatile. If you want to play Summoner, you can play Necromancer. If you want to play a tank, you can play Abjurer. But if you want to play a melee-based Wizard, you can play the Bladesinger, and it's gonna be so fucking awesome. I promise you. Early game, pretty much the biggest weakness. I could probably knock off like a point or two. It's still going to be S tier, but I might want to knock off a point just because the early game for Bladesinger is definitely weak. At level 1, you have to be a wizard. You cannot be a tanky character as a level 1 wizard, no matter how hard you fucking try. You know, level 2, you're still going to, once you get subclass, you get your identity, but you're still going to be pretty fucking squishy. Wearing light armor, having mage armor, your AC is only going to be like a 15 or 16 at best. And so with shield, you know, that you're gonna have to burn your spell slots just to stay alive in fights. Bladesinger, early game can be a little bit weak or underwhelming, but once you get towards Act 2, towards Act 3, you become God. You really do become super strong.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's still gonna be, regardless of the early game weakness, it's still gonna be a score of 26, and we're gonna rate that in S tier. Pretty much, the Moon Druid and the Bladesinger Wizard are the highest from this tier list, which is consistent with the class tier list where I said that Druid and Wizard are S+. So I think that makes sense. And then for the builds, if you need a Bladesinger build, I do have a link to my Bladesinger build that I made at the start of patch 8 that I still stand by. I think it's a lot of fun, and you can deal a ton of damage, make a ton of attacks, while also still being a full spellcaster and have access to all the cool wizard spells that wizards have access to. So, I mean, check them out. That is going to summarize our list for the most part. Let's see.
Yeah.
Before we do our closing thoughts for the tier list, I had made a post a couple days ago. It's got 176 votes. Thank you everyone who voted or left a comment. I asked you guys what your favorite subclass was given the list here, and if you didn't see your subclass on here, you know, make your own vote for another subclass. You can see we got the Giant Barbarian, which had a score of 25, solid S tier. That got 20% of the votes. Pretty solid. I mean, Giant Barbarian, especially if you just want to play a character that's going to be simple but also very strong, Giant Barbarian is the way to go. Then we have the Open
100%.
Ham Monk, the classic bonker. 13% of you voted for this one, and I believe that did that make it to S tier? No, it was just 1 point
made it to
short of
A.
S tier,
Yeah.
and I think the main reason why is because Monk has a very linear playstyle. You can only play as a damage dealer. You do have a little bit of battlefield control, but you have to be the main damage dealer. And so if you're playing in a party where everyone is a damage dealer, the open hand monk might not be the best pick for you. You're gonna
Kind of
you're
lose
gonna
your
kind of stack
identity.
up. Yeah, you're gonna stack up too much on that role. So that makes sense, 13% of the votes, still pretty good. Bladesinger, you can see my bias is not even at play here. 51% of you had voted Bladesinger to be the best, or at least your most preferred martial subclass. And
I really gotta try it out now.
yeah, and it makes sense. They have access to Shadowblade. They can deal a ton of damage up close, but they also have the full versatility of the wizard spell list for tanking, for dealing AoE damage, for dealing range damage, for controlling our enemies and disabling them. There is just so much options for the Bladesinger that it's going to be good in any team composition. And so it really makes sense to me that the Bladesinger, that you guys voted for the Bladesinger, and it's also my favorite subclass as well, that I'm going to recommend the most. Now, last we had the Crown Pally, and even though that's not really a damage dealer class, Paladins are good at dealing damage. They are also very much tanky, the truest tank, because they have a taunt ability. 16% of you had voted it as being your favorite martial playstyle subclass. And so if we take a look at the list, we gave Crown a solid A. It was very close to S tier. It just is a little bit lacking in the damage department compared to Oathbreaker and Vengeance, but having that Champion's Challenge to AoE taunt our targets is huge. It is absolutely fundamental to playing a tank and really making you feel like a tanky character as well.
Yes.
And so I'm very glad that, at least 16% of you had appreciated the Crown Pally and voted for that. And then looking at the comments, thank you for you guys who interacted with the polls. We have 10 Bladesinger, 2 Paladin, favorite martial subclass. If you play as a Paladin Bladesinger, you do have access to Shadowblade and Smites, which is really fucking nasty if you land a crit.
Super strong.
Really, really good damage. I like that. On this list, Crown Pally, overall Hexblade or Battle Master. And for Barbarian, it would be Tiger Wildheart. I actually like that a lot. Tiger Wildheart, a little bit of a sleeper. I might make a build for that sometime later using the Punch Drunk Bastard and showing you guys how good Tiger Wildheart actually is. But yeah, Hexblade and Battlemaster, those ended up being, well, actually Battlemaster ended up being B tier, mainly because it kind of loses its strengths in Act 3, where you burn through all of your maneuver die like super
Yes.
fast. Basically within like the first or second turn, you're going to run out of your maneuver die, and then you're just going to be a regular fighter.
Yeah.
But both of these still are great options. And then we have Swashbuckler, vote for Swashbuckler, which, given the dirty tricks, I actually do think Swashbuckler actually stands out among the Rogue, alongside Thief. And then we have another vote for Hexblade, which, yeah, Hexblade is fucking good. Like, I do have a build video for the Hexblade showing off how to use Hexblade and combining it with Oathbreaker Paladin to make our Sungjin Wu build, our Shadowblade build. But yeah, overall, you can see that the Ranger is going to be on the weaker side. The Rogue, I honestly thought was going to be on the weaker side, but going over Thief, it does make sense that it's very well-rounded, and it is actually very strong by itself. So that actually ended up being quite strong. The
If I
Monk,
wasn't here.
it was good that I had a second opinion. The Monk is definitely going to be a class that's powerful, but very much focused on damage and not much else. So that kind of docks some points in terms of, finding out whether or not this class is going to be useful in a wide variety of different situations. And then, of course,
Yeah.
Barbarian really stood out as pretty much all of the subclasses are good. They're flavorful,
Yes.
and they're a lot of fun too. Barbarian is the only one that we really gave a 10 for fun, besides the open hand monk. There was a little bit of bias there for sure, but undoubtedly it is the most fun. Giant Barbarian is some of the most fun I've had playing BG3. Try Giant Barbarian if you haven't. It's so fucking hilarious.
I still think we should give Death Main Cleric a 10, but that's just me.
That might be a slight bias there, I think. But yeah, I think that's gonna pretty much summarize our thought. Do you have any closing thoughts, Max?
No, no, none at the moment. Yeah, I genuinely think everything was really good. I really have to try out the new patch 8 stuff. I just unfortunately didn't have enough time to try all.
Yeah,
yet,
as far as like patch 8 stuff goes, Bladesinger and Giant Barbarian would be top of my list to try out. Followed by probably followed by like Swashbuckler and Hexblade, and then maybe Swarmkeeper and Drunken Master would be kind of lower on the list. I'd say in between that would be like Death Domain and Arcane Archer, and then at the bottom would be like Drunken Master.
Yeah. Did they add any new spells?
In patch 8?
Or
Yeah, they added Toll the Dead, they added Booming Blade, they added the Corpse Explosion one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just like cantrips, right?
Yeah, mainly cantrips. I don't recall if they added any actual leveled spells. I don't think they did.
Okay.
But yeah, still very solid. And that's going to be our subclass tier list, our martial subclass tier list. The recording time for this is 2 hours and 50 minutes. I'm obviously going to cut it down, make it a lot shorter than that, so that you guys don't have to listen to us rant for too long. But it's probably still going to end up being like at least 2 hours. But yeah, probably. That is going to be it for the subclass tier list. You can expect the spellcaster subclass tier list to be coming up next after this. We'll cover all of the we are going to cover all of the spellcaster subclasses, which is going to be a lot of wizard, a lot of cleric, and then all of the other. One of the main classes we did not include on this list is sorcerer, because there's almost no way to play a martial sorcerer. So you can expect to see and hear a lot about sorcerer in our spellcaster tier list, because I'll tell you what, sorcerer, they're going to be rated very, very highly.
Oh, of course, yes.
But yeah, that's going to be it for the video. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you do, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It always helps to support the channel. And leave a comment if you have your own thoughts on this tier list. If you think that a subclass should be rated higher, or if I missed out on a tip or information on a subclass that might have been crucial, by all means, I would love to hear about it. Please leave a comment for that. And yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for the video. So thank you very much for watching. And Maggie, thank you very much for joining me on this subclass tier list. Really appreciate your input.
Of course, thanks for having me. It was really fun.
Do you have any? Oh shit! I hear my phone ring.
Each one go get that.
I'll answer it in a second. But for your social, you don't have any socials that you want to share, do you?
No, none at the moment. I don't have any like content creation things right now. I should definitely probably go into it, because I have so much free time right now.
So Maggie currently doesn't have any content creation or content creator links, like any social links.
Yeah.
But in the future, if you do decide to dabble in some content creation, I'll definitely share your social on here. So appreciate you either way. You really helped out with the subclass tier list. And thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye guys. Thanks guys for watching.